Salvation, on the edge of the gray. Sharn, city of towers. And the link between them? The King's Citadel. The ones who do the job no one else can do. Eberron, the shield. A star-forged Aegis who's lived a long time, who's seen peace and war, and will do whatever it takes to keep the first from falling into the second. Merime, the sword. A Kalashtar bard whose dreams prophesy uncertain ends, but the wisdom of whose counsel and love for her sister are unquestionable. Tantan, the brain. A dragon-marked human artificer whose jovial demeanor conceals deep curiosity and razor-sharp intellect, sharp enough to cut down the Citadel's enemies. Nisiana, the heart. A dragon-marked halfling healer whose love for her sister is matched only by her desire to help and heal the members of the Citadel, no matter the cost. Rowan Shallow, the wild card. For most of his life, he's played a dangerous game. When the chips are down, will he fold or go all in to save his friends? They found an artifact so powerful it could undo the fragile peace between nations, the Oracle of War, which gives anyone who owns it the knowledge they need to win any battle, and which, in speaking lines from the ancient draconic prophecy, could predict all of Eberron's future. They traveled to Sharn, city of towers, where experts like the Gynosphinx Flamewind began to unravel the Oracle's mysteries as the King's Citadel thwarted assassination attempts from the Emerald Claw, and the nation of Thrain tracked down the daring thief Sky Blue and defeated the salvage broker and claw operative Erulin Karnak. Apparently. But there can be no rest while the dogs of war howl, and despite the Citadel's best efforts, Thrain and Brayland have inched ever closer to all-out conflict, just as the Oracle predicted. Now the adventurers must return to Salvation to find the secrets of the Oracle of War before it's too late. But how have things changed since they left? And will those who've sworn to die before they give up their freedom, the servants of the enigmatic Lord of Blades, threaten Salvation's uneasy peace? They've survived the Grey, saved Salvation, and navigated the intrigue and deception of Sharn. But can they stop a war? Only if they remember that in the end, all they have is each other and the King's Citadel. Long live the King. Welcome to Eberron. Welcome to Corvair. Welcome back to Salvation.
Yes, indeed. What's going on, everybody? Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Arvanauts, and all to a Saturday night, not a Friday night, a Saturday night stream. It is my great pleasure to welcome everybody here as we have arrived at day 39, I believe it is, of Eberron Oracle of War. This is D&D with Infinity and Beyond, Eberron Oracle of War, and this is Lord Bucket, in fact, part 3 of Lord Bucket. And if you want to know more about the details about how that all works and what that's all about and all that kind of stuff, can I strongly advise you to check out our YouTube channel, where you will see past broadcasts of this. I will do a little bit of a recap later on, as I always do, of our last session, but there's a lot more parts where this came from as we continue to move our players towards Lord 10 and beyond, level 10 and beyond. They are about halfway through a campaign which is going to take them all the way to level 20. So they have made good progress, but definitely there's a lot of work left to be done. and a lot more to unfold in this epic campaign. So I'm glad that you're all a part of this, joining us for more of this story as it unfolds tonight. Before we go any further, just a couple of reminders about ways to support us here on the channel. If you haven't done so already, please follow the channel. Please check out our YouTube, the !ArvTube, as I mentioned before. It's free to subscribe over there, but it definitely helps us out, and you can be involved with past broadcasts of this and other streams. Discord is !ArvCord, where you can hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams. Twitter is !ArvTweets. Website is arvanelleron.com. Financially, of course, !ArvShop is the merchandise area. !ArvTreon is the Patreon. I should mention, of course, that we do have at the shop D&D with I&B merchandise and swag. I'm not wearing it today, but we do have Infinity and Beyond gear, so you can check that out if you want to support the best bad idea you've ever had, as the link of it goes. We're going to have Shire Adventure stuff up there soon, and then we're going to have some Expedition from the Mysterious Peak stuff as well. So all of that is going to be up on that site, and already we have some of it there. So you can go right now, and that actually does support the channel. Thank you, Triffid. As I mentioned, the Patreon really is the financial backbone of the channel, and you can get inspirations to help our players. Now, I should say that I have not had time, because I'm out here on the West Coast, and I'm going to be out here for a little less than a week. So I have not had time to be able to reset everything for the month of July. I'm going to do that when I get back. So the inspirations are not perfectly up to date, so we'll roll with it. If things are not quite the way we intend, we'll figure it out in the end, but I'm just letting you know that the inspirations will be a little wonky, but you can get those inspirations to help our players by supporting the Patreon or by subscribing at a high enough tier, so please consider doing those things. And while I'm on the subject of subbing and resubbing is a really good thing, so please jump on board and do that if you possibly can. On the publication front, Icarus is my graphic novel from Athos Arts. Library is my Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library. I'll trust you, more or less, he said, doubtfully, possibly. Library is Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment. And Greyshade is my novel Greyshade from Athos Arts as well. Came out last year, won an IBPA award in June, the Benjamin Franklin Award Silver Medal for Science Fiction and Fantasy. So you can get that book. You can also pre-order the sequel, Renegade, which is coming later this month, July 25th. I'm actually having a release event on July 29th, so you can check out all that stuff. Renegade, that is coming out, as I say, later this month. You can pre-order that. You can also pre-order Heretic, which is the final book in the series coming out next year. You can also pre-order the tabletop role-playing game from the amazing Brandon O'Brien and Alligator Alley, which will be coming out later as well. And you can pre-order the audiobook from Trent Sparks, which is already out. Not actually pre-order, you can order the audiobook from Trent Sparks, of Greyshade, which is available on all major platforms now, Audible and all the other different places, so you can check that out. Yes, exactly. I totally trust Elon on all of that. Exactly right. So you can definitely do all of that. Highlight and Passion and High Hillness. You can do that as well, and that would definitely be helpful to all of us if you were able to support us with that Greyshade link. And last but certainly not least, BLM, Black Lives Matter. Important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. Help Now, the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Important to reach out to others when you need help and reach out to others when they need help as well. And Ukraine, Ukraine, to help the people of Ukraine as they fight back against an illegal and illegitimate war, and send the message that we will do so, that we will support others who are in this similar situation in the future. Quick note on schedule. Tonight, as I said, is Eberron Oracle of War, and that's going to be it for me until Friday at the earliest. There'll be no streams on Tuesday. It's July 4th. I'm going to be off with family and still out here in the Pacific Northwest. I'm going to be flying back on Friday. There is a chance I might get a stream in on Friday night, Friday the 7th, but there's no guarantee. It really depends on where the airplane gets in and how I'm feeling after the trip and all that. So no guarantees for Friday the 7th, but I will be back for shore streaming on Saturday the 8th. So a week from today, I will definitely be back. And then I will be either home, or when I am traveling on the road, it'll be with streams pretty much as normal, all the way up to Gen Con. Then Gen Con will change things around a little bit, and once I get back from Gen Con, then that's pretty much it for a couple of months, as I will be home from that point onward. So that's what we're looking for. I'm excited about all of that, and I hope you folks are looking forward to that as well. But tonight, we have got ourselves some Oracle of War, and so let me, excuse me, let me just unmute myself. Okay, so now I'm unmuting myself, so we're ready to go. I apologize for anyone I might have interrupted accidentally because I can't hear you. Then I'm going to unmute them, and last but certainly not least, I'm going to head over to reveal the crew, and there they are. There is the incredible crew, as you can see before you. They are prepared and ready, and they are all set. They said, the quote was, "We don't even need Chat's inspirations today. We are going to be able to handle this totally on our own, and we've got no problem."
I have no idea who said that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
What reality are you in?
Oh my goodness! It is good to see the entire crew with us, and I'm excited for Infinity and Beyond again. I will start with the gentleman at the bottom left of the ziggurat, who I'm sure heard exactly what I said, exactly as I said it before, and remembers it distinctly. And that is Tren Sparks. Trens, good to see you. How is life in the universe with you? How's everything with you? And who are you playing today, sir?
So I got a thing in the mail today,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to show it to you because I like it very much. Just a moment.
Okay.
Oh, show and tell. I love a show and
I
tell.
know, I didn't even bring any.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
nice.
lovely.
Is
the
that a-
Pride Progress flag? But they're all a bunch of animal faces.
Pride animal. That is cool.
That's
really
cool.
I love it.
Wait,
That is really cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. And as I was telling these guys in the green room, do not put your can of Chef Boyardee ravioli into a paint can shaker to make sure that you get it properly emulsified, because it will emulsify, and then it's just a slurry that you have to drink, and you feel like Shelob squeezing out a little hobbit like a Go-Gurt packet or something.
Yeah. Plus,
So,
you can never get a color match with the ravioli. Then at that point on the walls, and it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Just anyway, right. So who am I playing? I am playing Miatentin Tagashon de Canath. He is a battlesmith artificer who somewhere there is a mechanical good boy, as he is often referred to, named Spanner, who knows what his condition is. Just until, what's my character's name? Tantin. Until he builds a new one, the first one is still functional.
Yeah.
So
Hillness is convinced he's fine, so I'm sure if Hillness is convinced that Spanner's good, then
right, absolutely. I mean, I would say that we could absolutely use Hillness inspirations, but someone has.
I mean, I'm just the messenger. I mean,
Yeah,
you need to work on those messages, buddy.
and you're the only one who ever tells us that. So anyway, somewhere out there, Spanner's, and I imagine the Lord of Blades is probably trying to press him for information, and Spanner doesn't listen to anybody but me. So it's like, even if he tries to take him apart and probe him for specialized programming, that is all he's going to find is the command steed. That is the only thing that is different.
Yeah.
Like, why? What is the what?
Yeah, in the version of this where he gets turned into a Borg, you're like, how would you tell? Like he's just
Exactly.
he comes back, he's like, I am Spanner. You're like, you were Spanner. I am
Nothing
Steed.
has changed.
Like nothing's changed at all. Anyway, it is a pleasure to have Tren with us, and for the second time actually, because we had Tren for Shire Adventures, a very eventful Shire Adventures, I would say, as we went through, and I'm excited to have Tren back tonight. I'm also excited to have Marie Bilodeau back with us, of course, who was telling us all about this new awesome car, which is basically self-aware, and has allowed it to circumnavigate 100,000 people who are coming to Marie's house for Ottawa Day, for Canada Day. You notice how I've gotten every point of that story exactly right, Marie, I believe.
You did great. I don't even need to be here. You can just play Mérimée while you're at it. You got this.
How are you doing, Marie? And who are you playing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. It is exciting. I do have a new car finally, as my old car kept needing CAA, which is like our version of AAA, and I was like, it was gonna renew, but we were running out of towings so I was like, I think I need a new car. Anyways, we got a new car. It's fancy. Because like if you buy the base model, it'll take them even longer to get it. So they're like, if you get the middle model, and we're like, the base model is so fancy already. We have like nothing in our car except air conditioning. So we're very excited. And now, did I tell you guys about the brownie?
No, but I imagine you're going to.
It was cheesecake with a brownie base.
Jen remembers. Yeah, I
Yeah, she
did.
did.
I did. Okay, good. Yeah. So there's been that, and now there are sugar cookies currently being cooked upstairs. As we speak. I could smell it, but it's still mostly the smell of the bread that was baked today that I can smell right now, but soon the sugar cookie smell will. I'm just keeping you all in the loop. That's what I'm doing. So you're welcome.
Note to self, disadvantage for session. I'm just writing down some notes. It's like,
Oh, wait, I have the same note. So I am playing Mirimi Hawksmoor. I am a sword stabbing, magic wielding Kalishtar bard. I am sister to Nisiana, who is Jen's character. We're having a great time, despite the fact that it looks like we're going to get into a big battle next, but I'm sure we'll be fine. We've been doing great. So, yes, excited for today. This has been a lot of fun, and yeah, I'm glad to be here with all of you.
always a pleasure to have Marie with us. And moving right on to the middle of the ziggurat, so to speak, it is, of course, the amazing and incredible Brandon O'Brien, who is with us. And Brandon, we were hearing about how Brandon, when he flies to Gen Con, has the fastest route, just about an hour. Just straight to it. They just direct there, and then they parachute him over. That's not true. It's a little longer than I've just described, Chad. But I'm sure he's still excited to come, despite the fact that it's not exactly a direct route. How are you doing, Brendan? How's life in the universe with you, and who are you playing today? And can you confirm how long this flight is?
Oh God! If it were in fact an hour, I'm pretty sure I would be traveling at a speed that would disintegrate me and all the other passengers on that plane. But the total amount of time that I will spend in the air traveling from here to Indy is, if I did my math correctly, just under 8 hours.
Oh.
Not including the time that I'll be at the airport. And I'm like, this is fun, I'm sure. I mean, this time I'm at least not either leaving Piarco International Airport in the middle of the morning or arriving in Indy hours before midnight, which is a blessing, to be sure.
Right.
So I'm very grateful for that. Also, because I have no really cool personal stories about what I've been doing the last couple of weeks, because the thing that I've been doing these last couple of weeks is work on the Grey Shade RPG. I did want to tell you a thing, Greg, that I'm sure you either did or did not notice, because this is one of the few opportunities that a thing that you are wholly interested in and a thing that I am wholly interested in naturally merge without both of us being interested in the same one thing.
Okay. I think I followed that.
The Grading Association PSA released a tweet at 11:06 a.m. yesterday that reads just graded. The One Ring is found, authenticated, and now rules them all.
I saw this. Yes, I saw that. It's been found.
Oh.
Yes, it
The
has been
one
discovered.
of one collector's boosters copy of the One Ring in the Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering set has apparently been found. No one knows who it belongs to yet, only that it's been professionally graded.
Yep.
And the assumption is that it's going to go for $2 million at least.
Yep.
Well, I had heard that a Saudi prince had before it had been released was already offering 600,000.
Yeah, I mean, which is lowballing it. They're going to get more than that.
Apparently.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yes, I did see that, and I was like, it's been found. And my wife was like, what? I'm like, the One Ring. And she's like, what? I'm like, it's a long story.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this is defeating the heart of the books in some very dramatic way. But seeing as I've never actually read those books, I don't know what that way is.
Right, exactly. The real tech is to actually be the one who buys it and then cast it into the fire that you have called Mount Doom, and like that.
I mean, that would be hilarious for someone to buy it and then
Dude,
recording
that
a
would
video of
be-
them putting it in their child's candy volcano.
That's
That
a
would be really
flex right
hilarious.
there if you do that.
How rich do you have to be to do that, though? I want to be that rich.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right?
It's true.
so rich to watch a piece of cardboard go 6 figures and then destroy it.
Right?
Yeah.
Just to be holding it and have your friend Callum show up and bite your hand off. And,
But yes, I am Brandon O'Brien. I am a poet, writer, and game designer from Trinidad and Tobago. Tonight will be playing Rowan Shallow, someone who made a terrible mistake joining this group of people and is very slowly learning that his life is forfeit every time he spends time around them on a regular basis. But at least he has a cool arm that is also a cool gun, and he'll keep shooting it for as long as he can.
Always a pleasure. It's going to be an exciting this separate sort of like, meanwhile with Rowan is going to be an interesting experience, as we'll talk about today, as we seek some of the criminal underworld elements, let's say, of Salvation. But we will talk about that in just a bit. But first, we are going to say hi to Jennifer Brozek, who is here with us, who is has, as we have learned, has now made her house more a even bigger sort of focal point of the neighborhood than it was before, largely due to Marie Bilodeau's visit. I haven't made up any of what I've just said just now, in the least. How are you doing, Jen? Can you confirm that your house is now the focus of your neighborhood, and who are you playing today?
I can confirm that the focus of the neighborhood is my house, which has the 9-foot dinosaur statue, 3 gargoyles on the roof, and a TARDIS little free library. Trust me, we are the neighborhood eccentric people. And once they found out that I was an author, I mean, they're like, oh, she's an author. It's okay.
Oh, those ones. Yes.
One of those.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, well, I started out as Jeff's wife. Then I got, that author person. Then I got, it's the House of the Statues, because there were many. And then the House at the Little Free Library. Then it's that House at the Dinosaur. And when somebody comes and talks to me, I mean, the kids say hello to Spike all the time. People have figured out that I have Aslan and Mr. Thomas in my front yard. I mean, we're just a normal suburban house.
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
At what point do you become the real life Angela Lansbury from Murder, She Wrote, where like you're constantly getting caught up in murders that are going on in your neighborhood?
I am over the age of 50, so I'm now allowed to solve murders in quaint seaside towns. So, anytime. But let's see. There was something else I was going to mention. Oh, I will be at Gen Con. I have discovered one of my workshops is already sold out, which is kind of amazing to me.
Awesome.
Project management for creatives. Who knew that would be popular? And I am playing Nisiana Di Jarasco, a healer from the House of Healing, and she is as the heart of the group, and she's going to have a conversation with a couple of the members of the group here soon.
Yeah,
they're doing interpretive dances. They're going up to that line and doing some interpretive dances, and I need to slow that roll a little bit.
This began with just a conversation that was going to be had with Tanton, and now Ilarion is on the docket, and then there's just going to be a lineup of people that just roll in the door, one after the other.
Gonna hang out her shingle.
Yeah, basically.
I think after last session, Ilarion has moved above Mia Tanton.
Be careful with the hangout or shingling. That's what got Tanton into this whole mess in the first place.
I didn't say I was going to come out of it unscathed, but that is the lot of a healer.
It is, and I am excited to see how Nisiana does things today. It'll be very interesting because Nisiana every one of the characters will be busy, involved with various tasks, as we'll discuss in just a moment. But last but certainly not least, of course, we are joined by one Mr. John Helfers as well. John is with us, and John, I hope all is well with you. How is life in the world? I should tell you that I have had some Wisconsin cheese curds to go along with the Washington State cheese curds, so I've been doing a little bit of a taste test combo, and been an interesting experience. How is life in the? Do you wish to weigh in on which cheese is better, as if I wouldn't know the answer?
I mean,
and
you
who are
already
you playing today?
You already had them both, so which do you think was more was better.
I think Washington State because it's fresher is the thing. Like I think I got.
See, there's the thing.
That's
if
the
you were
thing.
actually in Wisconsin,
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you can give the freshness edge there because you're getting them closer to the source. So I of course have to do the dairy state. The dairy state. Come on. But
Right.
I want to go back and talk to something that Brandon had mentioned where he said his life was forfeit, or Roland's life was forfeit. No. Expendable pawn, maybe, but the forfeit. No, not at all.
Not a forfeit for nothing.
I kid. Rowan
Very
is
useful.
a valued member of our team. Absolutely.
Of course, someone always
Yes.
needs to take the arrow first.
To the knee, exactly.
Great value.
No, things are good here. The smoke cloud has finally been pushed away by that great thunderstorm that went across the center of the state. We did not get really rained on, but we took the smoke away, so that's been good. So nice to breathe outside. Welcome, change of pace. So I can't complain. I am playing Ilarion. He apparently about to be chastised or something. Starforged, Warforged Aegis. There you go. And yes, it's going to be very interesting in our prep time for the invasion of the Lord of Blades army. Should be very interesting. And I've written notes and I have tasks, several tasks, probably more tasks by the time we're done with this. It's going to be interesting.
It is indeed going to be interesting. And with no further ado, let me switch over to the map and let's take a look and see what is positioned for us. Yeah, the player cards do show the player name and character name. This is actually courtesy of Shadowed Mage, who has adjusted the overlay, and this was Shadowed Mage's overlay to begin with anyway. I'm going to be doing this for all of mine. Shadowed is also adding this for the other overlays because it speeds things up considerably when I don't have to add the names. And also this way you can see both player and character, which I think is a nice thing. But so thank you to Shadow Mage for that. Let's fire up the music. I have a new music theme today, which is called True West. Not Lonesome West, but True West. I do like Lonesome West, but
I thought it'd be called meetings and paperwork, but oh well.
yeah, exactly. That's the new kind of yes. I do remember that you did, Hilna. So I finally got around to it. It only took me 5 years to get it done, but in any case,
become middle management.
We are here, and I am ready to go. So, quick note though, because I'm dropping frames. Wait a second. Hold on. I'm dropping frames. Bear with me. Interesting. Okay, it's trying to reconnect. Let me see if I can change up the...
Keto. And it was definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate her persistence, but
I know. I
that
was
is
just
Okay.
not.
to tell that story on stream.
We should be back, I think.
I
Okay.
see.
We were all here, Arv. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
no,
you're-
I know. What happened was my internet decided that the hotel internet was like, you don't really want the internet anymore, right? And I was like, what?
Exactly.
And it was like,
No, but I do.
I do, really.
No, really, honestly for true.
Oh, God.
I see
please
you
don't
there.
Please don't make me recapture everything again. Oh, no.
I see your voice moving.
Oh, no. Are you kidding me?
Well, we can see you on the.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
We'll just play like black boxes. All good.
I can't
Yeah.
believe.
We can hear all of us too.
Yeah.
On
I
the
mean,
stream. This is
you know,
If we're
great.
going, if we're playing in the theater of our mind, they can listen to this.
I can't believe this. Yeah, there's something weird where OBS is not holding on to Zoom windows so that when I recapture, it does this weird thing where it just doesn't capture properly. And like, oh my God. Okay. Chat, this is going to take a while, so I'm going to recapture right now. This is not what was intended to happen. And it happened because apparently I needed to renew my internet connection 24 hours after I did the last time. So I apologize for that. That's very frustrating. Sigh. All right, well, I'm going to be doing the best I can. So I guess talk amongst yourselves, he said.
Well, I can tell the story of my strange thing I got in the mail.
Sounds
that
good.
I was just telling the green room.
Go ahead and do that. I will capture you as quickly as possible. My apologies.
So you know how Marie always talks about getting really interesting stuff from, to eat. Well, I have a fan who desperately wants me to try her gluten-free cookies. And the first time she sent them to me, they became crumbs in the mail. And Friday, I got this message saying, if you receive frozen cookie dough in the mail, it's from me. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then this morning I got, hey, you have a package in your P.O. box. I was like, okay, that's weird. I didn't expect anything. I did not connect these things together. So my husband went out to the P.O. box and got it. And he's like, it's from Florida. I'm like, what? Who? Florida? So I opened this thing up. And it was the cookie dough that was definitely not frozen anymore. In fact, I pulled it out and I'm like, oh dear. So now I have to tell her that I can't eat her cookie dough because it's been sitting for 3 days.
Oh, I mean, there's no ingredients in cookie dough that could be a problem, right? Raw cookie dough, I can't imagine what would be.
Yeah. Because basically she sent it to me so that I could cook the cookies so they wouldn't be destroyed in the mail. And I really much appreciate this because I adore gluten-free peanut butter cookies. But I'm like, oh dear, I don't know what to do about this.
Florida?
Yeah.
I mean, she lives in Florida. I live in Seattle. There's kind of a difference. And I'm like, yeah, nothing. And it was an envelope with a frozen, or a plastic thing that was supposed to be frozen. Yeah. I'm assuming she froze the dough before she put it in the envelope and then put the other freeze thing around. And yeah, it didn't.
Too hot, probably.
I mean, it's a good try, sort of, kind of.
And you know what? I appreciated the thought. And I will let her know that I have received it, but I will be unable to sample her wares because 3 days in suspect temperatures and
yeah, that seems like not likely to have worked at any point. I don't know.
The answer to your question, Triffid, is the most horrific of things. Hope is what causes shit like that. And hope is a terrible, terrible thing.
Hope the most damnable emotion.
Yeah, I sent last year. I sent Jen a cheese advent calendar, and I paid for it. It was in winter, right? So it's like chances are it's cooler, and it was supposed to get there in like a couple of days. It did not.
I got stuck in customs. Actually, is what happened.
Sketch cheese. It was very sketch.
Like
so
9 days.
They should have just eaten the cheese. And then Jen, to your to your merit, you tried to eat some of the cheese, didn't you?
I did. I was like, well, it's fully sealed. Cheese is a rustic food. You should be able to eat it warm. It should be fine. But
it should be, as in morally it should be, right? Like morally it should be,
Because and I have not found a decent cheese advent calendar in America. I've ordered them from Germany, And I mean, it cost me an arm and a leg, but it got here in like 24 hours and was cold when it arrived. So,
Urban efficiency.
Okay, that I think is everyone where they're supposed to be. My apologies. I'm not going to bother with the cams only for right now. We're just going to go with the map one because I don't want to do that again. That
I wasn't here when whatever happened, so I have no idea what you're apologizing for.
Okay. Oh well, my internet going down
Don't
because I
tell
had
me.
Well, it all began. Okay, so let's talk about what happened in our last session. In our last session, the incredible King Citadel crew was tasked with, after having gone and found a band of Warforged raiders and having gathered some information, although they didn't know what the information was until later on it was discovered, that the party, basically that there was an invasion coming, an attack, an assault, which is going to be happening on the village, now the larger town, I guess one might say, of Salvation. Now, one could assume that the floating fortress of Argonth might be enough to be able to hold off any potential invasion, but the reality is that the Argonth probably looks better in theory than in practice, and in reality that may not be as strong as it might appear from the outside, and the Lord of Blades appears determined to let the hammer flow, to let the spice flow and the hammer fall on the town of Salvation. And so the party has been tasked now with trying to, in some way, prepare Salvation for this inevitable assault. Now, it would seem fine to be able to manage this were it not for the machinations of one particularly not popular general who is... he is, a person who is not what you might hope for. General Tyresh is his real name, but what he's popularly known as among his soldiers is Lord Bucket, largely due to a bout of a suffering from dysentery, which means that an aide walks behind him with a bucket at all times. If any of you don't know what dysentery is, I encourage you to use the power of the internet to go seek it out, and we'll be here when you get back.
Don't seek it out, but at least play, what was the Oregon Trail? Go do that.
Yeah, Oregon Trail. Also, I would recommend Safe Search On, please. Safe Search On. The whole way. Safe Search On. In any case, Lord Bucket is, perhaps because of this, is kind of a jerk, and not a particularly competent one, but he is the general, and so he has come up with the T's to be able to protect Salvation. The first, of course, is trenches. These trenches to protect Salvation by making it more difficult for people to get into the town because of the benefit of these trenches. The second T is traps, to be able to set snares and other traps so that the Lord of Blades' forces can be funneled into the outpost's main avenues. And then the third T of training, to be able to train the citizens of Salvation to be ready to fight back when necessary, because the army may not be able to do it all on its own. There is also a fourth T called tasks, various, which involves putting obstacles in thoroughfares, making updates to different outposts, securing equipment, ushering non-combatants to shelter. I believe Nisiana wants to put together a fifth T, trauma center to be able to take care of some of the wounded during battle, etc., etc. So these are all sort of tasks, various. And so the King's Citadel has been heavily requested by, basically ordered by the general and requested more gently by Halar to be able to prepare the town in this way. However, the King's Citadel, though they have agreed to do this, also have their own tasks which they need to fulfill, and all of them want to do this in various ways. Some of it involves a sort of searching through dreams. In particular, Nisiana wants to be able to see if she can get in contact with Eberron, and of course Merime wants to be able to get in contact with others of the Kalashtar, seeing if she can find either her mentor or some of the others that might be able to give her some suggestions about what to do and whether this invasion is going to happen and where to best prepare for it. Tantin and Nisiana, I believe, are going to also be working on traps, if I'm not mistaken, and preparing those traps. Nisiana also doing the trauma center, as I mentioned before. Alarian wants to handle training, and Rowan wants to be a part of that training as well. And then Rowan has also been given another suggested idea, which is to seek out about Zodor Tarev, the shape-shifting salvage broker, who was not the most popular figure, was considered kind of a criminal element part of Salvation before, but as it turned out, may have been a crook, but he was our crook, or the party's crook, to be more accurate about it, and was not as bad as Irulin Karnak, who, of course, the party managed to neutralize, at least for the present time. And so Zodor Tarev, who is still kind of a wild card, I suppose you might say, or an additional wild card, who better to meet with a wild card than a wild card himself in Rowan Shallow. And so Rowan is off to do that, although Rowan also wanted to do some training as well. And then the last bit of information that has to come into all this is that who knows how long it will take before Lord Bucket himself decides to weigh in on the various preparations. The only thing that's known for certain is that they have about 2 days for these preparations to complete before the invasion is expected to arrive. And if the party is not able to gather more information about that invasion by the next day, they have also broached the possibility of using the Oracle of War itself to gain information about how to figure out ways to repel the Lord of Blades. And that is a double-edged sword, if you will, because while the Oracle is very good at preparing people for military conflict, it's also very good at essentially sending up a flare, or the equivalent, saying, hey, I'm here, come and get me, and the party is very nervous about that. So all of this is going on whilst Sky Blue, who has some connection with the Draconic Prophecy and the Oracle of War, is in the party's care, waiting in Hilar's home, and while Hilar Brissal is trying to gather information about this invasion also. So, no big deal, not a whole lot going on, just sort of everything happening at once. And so,
Sleepy border town, exactly.
Exactly. So as I bring things back to the party, I'm actually going to begin this time with Rowan. I want to start with Rowan seeking out Zodor Tarev, and then I'm going to jump back to the other 4 characters and talk about what they're doing. And Rowan, my thought is after we're done talking about Zodor, then you're going to be able to head back, because I know you wanted to do some training work, so I might jump to Alarion there next, and then we'll kind of bounce around that way. So that is my theoretical plan. So I'm going to bring this back to you, Rowan, and I want to ask, how are you going to... Now, again, you've had dealings with Zodor before, but it's been a little while. Zodor has gone to ground, and so you have not seen him for some weeks. And I'm curious about where you're going to try to go to gather information about Zodor, and for that matter, what else you want to do in preparation for it. Like, do you have anything you want to do to set up for this that I don't yet know about? Or not, you don't have to.
So I feel like one of the first things that I obviously want to do as a result is go back to the place where I had previously interacted with one of Tarev's
Right.
underlings, pawns,
Yep.
thralls, whatever they call themselves, and see if anyone is like, just before I actually just kind of monitor the location to see if anybody gathers there on a regular basis.
Okay, so in that case, let's see. I'm going to have you. So that spot is. Let me just grab my note with this to make sure I have that information. Okay, right. Okay, so you head here to let's see. You have this bit. Okay. So you have been heading as best you can towards the last known location of where you found Zodor Tarev. And for the rest of the party, in case you're curious, you've also had this encounter before. Zodor Tarev, you may remember, had what essentially is a kind of elaborate treehouse. I mean, I hate to put it this way, but it was basically this thing elevated above the ground.
Not wrong.
And Zodor basically had this area where he had gone before. But that treehouse, so to speak, has been shut down and has not been running for some time, at least. But it was near there, Rowan, where you typically was the last time that you had a conversation with one of Zodor's operatives. And so as you head back over in that general direction, and this is actually, let me switch this up in the map here. Let's zoom out a bit. Come on, zoom out. You can do it. There we go. Zooming out. this is probably, I would say, down towards, let's see if that works. Can I ping down here? No, I have to switch this up. Okay, like this. So down here, there we go. Right there is where you can see basically outside of town, just a little bit to the southeast, is where this sort of treehouse fort type of thing is. But now there is nothing there, except as you come up close to where you previously met one of his minions, you do see something which is sort of odd. And sitting at the foot of this treehouse is what looks like all the world a Iron Defender. It looks very much like Spanner, Tantin's Iron Defender, although it is definitely not Spanner. But you can see it is sort of sitting at the base of the treehouse and is just kind of staring outwards. You're not even 100% sure that it's active, but that's the only thing you see near the area where you last spoke to one of Zodor's minions.
Okay. I walk up to the Iron Defender.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I do.
Okay. It doesn't move. It's just sitting there.
Can I at all glean what its intent is by staying here?
Well, are you just standing next to it? I know you came up to it. Are you like sitting down, petting it, looking at it, growling at it, ignoring it?
I kneel down to be like just a little bit closer to its height, without like going all the way down, to observe it further.
Okay. So when you kneel down, and it's kind of like, so it's looking off kind of into the distance, and as you sort of kneel down and get to its height, you suddenly are a little startled when it swivels its head towards you. And then you hear coming from within it this metallic voice that says, "State your business here." Sounds like a metallic voice that is very much not a dog's voice.
Mm-hmm. I say, I'm looking for a friend of mine.
What's the name of this friend, and who are you?
My friend's name is Zodar Taref, and I'm someone that Zodar Taref knows.
And there's sort of a long pause. And then, Rowan, you have this disturbing experience of suddenly there is a sting and the lights, the eyes light up red. And there's a moment where these two glowing lasers basically hit your torso, and you have a moment of being like, ah, but I mean, it doesn't hurt. It's not a weapon. The light sort of scans up until it comes up to your face, and then kind of it almost feels like it's sweeping over your face. And then the lasers shut off, and the Iron Defender rises into a standing position, and then says, "Follow, and don't fall behind if you value your life," and walks off, basically towards the southeast, away further from town.
I follow it immediately.
Okay. So you follow this Iron Defender, which just goes at just sort of at a regular walking pace, doesn't run. But you feel quite exposed, Rowan, as you're kind of walking down here, because it's just you, and you're heading not right towards the gray, but kind of vaguely in that direction. And there is, as you will remember, a tree line that basically is in the east and southeastern side. You were in this tree line before when you were searching for the Warforged Raiders that you eventually found. And as you go further, you can see that the Iron Defender is leading you towards that line of trees. And after about probably 5 minutes or so, you've arrived there, and the Iron Defender, without stopping or turning around, just walks into that first kind of line of trees. By the way, these trees are not super, super dense, but they do block the vision of the gray beyond, but that's where the creature is gone.
Okay, I follow.
Okay. You go a few, probably another couple of minutes, kind of following it around places and so on, and then eventually gets to this rather large, what looks like a massive kind of tree stump. And the Iron Defender comes up to it and then turns and looks at you and then sits down and then kind of looks off and is silent, doesn't say anything again, sort of stares off.
Should I be waiting for something? Hello? Are
Make a perception check for me, please.
perception? 6.
Okay.
I see nothing.
Yeah, since you're probably pretty occupied, I would imagine, being like, where the hell? You don't hear until you feel, rather than hear, at the back of your neck is the unmistakable feel of cold metal with an edge. And at your left ear, you hear, "Right, you give your real name now. Do it quick, and we'll see what happens next."
Or something could just happen next.
And there's a pause, and then, "I like a brave man. You said you're here to see Zodor Tarev, and that Zodor knows you. Zodor knows
Indeed.
Zodor knows a lot of people, you know."
Be that as it may, I'm one of them.
And there's this kind of pause, and then, "All right, then." And suddenly the low voice drops into a much more familiar timbre. And as you sort of turn around, as the blade is removed from your neck, you see that it is Zodor himself who is facing you. He is, of course, as you know, a shifter, and he is sort of tossing this blade back and forth as he studies you. Zodor, you would say, looks a little bit the worse for wear. He looks a bit disheveled. Looks like he hasn't maybe slept all that well, and this is the first time you can remember meeting Zodor directly. Like, not exactly directly. You were brought here, but without like a couple of guards around or a minion or two, and there's just Zodor himself. And he kind of leans back against the tree and he says, "All right. I wondered when I was going to hear from you again, Rowan. But I have to say I didn't expect you'd be coming all this way. I thought that you'd gone straight."
As straight as something can force me to be.
"Ah, you're being forced into it then. Why? You're working for the good guys for a change."
I'm doing what is necessary to ensure that you still have a hellhole to hustle in the first place. Let's put it at that and leave it there.
Not much of those. You've been working with the crew there from Brayland.
Unfortunately so, yes. One is a friend of mine. It was really just supposed to be an idle harassment for a couple of days. Suffice it to say that I've learned they're doing good work, and that without them, most of the environs would probably be a pile of cinders by now. Which is unfortunate, considering how much carnage kind of follows these people in their wake regardless. Which is part of why I wanted to speak to you.
All right. In fact, you're not wrong about the carnage. It's why I haven't been able to be around myself. It's not exactly their fault. But wherever these people show up, The next thing you know, things all go to hell. So, I suppose...
Well, that's because it's their job to follow hell.
And he sort of sighs and kind of picks at the fingernail, at an offending piece of dirt underneath one of his fingernails with the tip of his dagger. And he says, you're probably right. Although it's stuff that would have made a lot less sense to me before I decided to go soft. I had my opportunity back in the day. I could have taken over by now. But instead I had to start caring somewhat about what this miserable town does. And now the whole place is crawling with military. This isn't the way to run a business, Rowan. Anyway, what did you want to speak to me about? As you can see, I don't have all of my lofty environments, and he kind of, spreads his arms wide as if to show the surrounding forest and the tree stump and the Iron Defender. So I don't have much to offer you in the way of luxury accommodations.
Of course. Because you've been so tremendously kind to me in our last engagement.
You gave as much as you got.
I'm sure. In any case, I'm here to talk about those friends of mine.
All right, what about them?
You've had at least one previous engagement with a pretty stern iron fellow by the name Ilarion?
Yes, I remember him. Just about his will's about as steel as the rest of his body. And flexibility isn't what I would... Well, I'd like someone a little bit easier to handle. But yes, he and I have spoken. They and I spoke before.
Indeed. In the vein of said inflexibility, they've insisted that they need to speak to you post-haste. And suffice it to say that post-haste has a deadline and it hasn't been set by them.
What? And he kind of shakes his head. The last time I agreed to something that creature set up, that whole group set up, it nearly destroyed everything I had working here. Yes, they saved the town, but there was a cost to those of us who were trying to make a good living in it. Now you want me to meet them again? They could take what's left. And he kind of gestures helplessly at the Iron Defender.
Let me clarify, I guess. And this I'm actually going to use persuasion for
Okay.
when I'm done speaking.
Okay.
I've been in this group's company nary a week. And in that week, I've probably seen the light of heaven very clearly at least twice. I've also, in that time, gained on the very seriously valid authority that salvation is not only still in peril, but that peril has been exponentially increasing for quite some time. So, as a businessman, it's a very fairly reasonable argument to make that even though what is taking place right now for you reasonably amounts to a kind of depression of sorts, you still have customers, and it would be valuable to keep as many of them as possible so you can continue doing whatever business you can, however diminished, instead of having no place to work at all. And I am about to tell you with confidence, you can either have customers or you can have toothpicks, so you should speak to Ilarion.
Why wouldn't I just lay low until everything passes over and I pick up the pieces? That'd be a lot safer, and it wouldn't change anything for me. It's not like the people of Salvation have been that kind to me. Or to you, for that matter, Rowan. I thought that the only thing you cared about with those people was to make as much as you could from them, and then get out of there quickly. Instead of becoming what? A defender of theirs? And you note that he's stopped with the dagger, by the way, and is now sort of like, has sheathed it, and is now standing looking at you with his hands by his sides.
I need to eat. Yes, that's unquestioned. I happen to like life a lot. I would like to keep it, and I'd like to die as wealthily as possible, even if we're both admitting our sins. But again, to be sure, you can either have just over 1,000 customers. We can just have 10.
He kind of nods a couple times, and then he says, as if you were speaking about the weather, pointing at your arm, he says, one of them helped make that for you, didn't he? He says this with a smug smile, by the way.
Helped? Helped implies that I could have gotten it any other way. This was a gift from a friend.
And, you feel obligated to this friend now?
A bit.
What if I told you that I could improve what you have? What if I told you that I know where you could get some material that would make what you're using now feel like a stick?
That would be grand, in fact. That would be beautiful. I would love to have something that works a whole lot more smoothly than this, and this is dreamlike. One thing, though, you'd have to tell me now, or I'll never hear it again.
Interesting. And he kind of, go ahead and make a persuasion check for me, actually, Rowan. I think that's a good moment to persuade.
16!
Certainly better than a 6. He says,
Indeed!
he sort of thinks about it, and he, you can see him kind of looking you up and down, and he says, Say that I do tell you about it. What happens if you've gone so straight that you run right back to your friends? Tell them about it so you can go do the right thing instead of getting the arm that you really want for yourself.
I think that what I know most truly about this very rugged world of ours, where we need to hide in the shadows to live, is that I can do a thing that is dishonest now for justice later. And if you can give me something that helps me keep salvation around for a few more weeks, I'd like to do that. And I think that arm would help.
He nods and he says, before I go on to say, thank you, Other Doc, for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. Thank you so much. Welcome to Eberron Oracle of War, day 39 of Eberron Oracle of War, as we are in the midst of Lord Bucket. We're in the midst of Season 3 of Eberron Oracle of War, and you're watching one of the best D&D groups on Twitch, D&D with Infinity and Beyond, Tren, Marie, John, Jen, and Brandon. So welcome, everybody, and thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. He kind of looks at you and he says, all right, I think I have a way, in fact, I know I have a way to be able to get material that can infuse what you've got there with even more magical power than it might already possess. It's basically some material that some people of mine found in the gray. I wasn't entirely sure what to do with it, but then I found a way to be able to refine it. Doesn't do much good unless you've already got metal parts of your body, but I've been able to do some work with it already. And he kind of nods at the Iron Defender, and the Iron Defender which remains motionless. He says, this thing, for example, was just an empty husk when I found it to begin with, but after a little bit of infusion with a special method I have access to, Now it was able to act as my eyes and ears, and as your guide. If you are willing to go along with what I suggest, then I'd be able to infuse your arm with the same kind of material. If you think you've got some power now, Rowan, wait till you see what happens when it's infused with the power of the Grey. And if you're right, you're going to need it in the days to come.
I presume then there's a catch. Let me guess, you don't want to speak to Ilarion.
No, I'll speak to Ilarion. The catch is, you're going to need to do a favor for me. Now, before you worry, and he holds up a hand, this isn't going to be anything that harms your friends. Actually, it's probably in my interest that they succeed, because whatever I don't like about the people of Salvation, I like the destruction that's going to come with a bunch of Warforged even less, and I have heard about those stories. If they're right, the Lord of Blades is coming in, well, that's not going to be much better for business anyway. Plus, they did me a bit of a good service by removing Erulin Karnak, and she was no good for business either. No, this won't harm them, and it won't harm the people of Salvation. But I'm not going to say that it will be completely legal necessarily. I'll talk to Ilarion, I'll help you, but then you have to agree to do a favor for me that, again, isn't quite on this side of the law, but won't harm your friends and won't harm the people of Salvation.
I love that you refuse to clarify the other thing that would be particularly important to me. Which is whether it's going to harm me, of course. I've been in quite a lot of pain these last few days. Can't you just give me some easy duty? Just the one time. I've been in enough fights for you, and I've been in quite a bit more for these folk. And again, it hasn't been a week.
He nods and he says, "The truth is, Rowan, you've been in debt. You owe several people, and you know that eventually those debts are going to come through. Not from me, from others.
But at least I know I don't owe you any debts. We can keep it that way. That's fine. That works for me just great. I can deal with everyone else."
The problem, though, is that I already know that the people that you owe debts to are coming here to find you, Rowan. They've had enough, and they've let it be known that there's a bounty on your head. If they get the chance, they'll take your arm and what's left of you. I happen to know this because of connections I have, but unlike anybody else, I know in enough time to warn you. Your friends, I'm sure, would have been happy to avenge your death after it already happened. On the other hand, I'm here to help you not die in the first place, and all I ask in return is a little service for me. And you get your arm infused, too. That's a pretty fair deal, the way I see it.
No one's supposed to know that I'm here.
I know. And it's a good thing that I found this out. You are going to be a blade in the dark, let's call it, Rowan. You were so busy playing the do-gooder, you forgot that the ones you did bad to hadn't forgotten about you. There are a few who know, and they're coming. Your decision, though. I'm just the messenger. And he kind of folds his arms and leans back against the tree.
Fair. I knew at some point I'd have to clean up a mess. I didn't expect it to be so soon. And if I learn that the mess is coming for me because you gently nudged someone my way, we're gonna have another conversation. But then, this conversation also has a caveat from me.
He smiles. And what's that?
You speak to Ilarion in the open. Like an adult.
In the open of the town, you mean?
It doesn't matter where in Salvation it happens, but no skulking. You go meet the team. You let them know that this is serious enough to warrant your daylight presence.
Somewhere a bell rings. He says, I need a safe house. A place where we can be
Ask for
sure
one.
we won't be attacked.
Ask for one.
All right. You tell Ilarion and the rest of the Citadel that I want the personal guarantee of not just them, but of the one that they're with, Hilar Brsal. He and I spoke too. I don't trust Hilar Brsal, but I respect him. And I do believe that if Hilar gives his word, that I'll at least be safe enough for as long as it takes to hear whatever Ilarion has to say. But I want you to know something, Rowan. If I'm going to do this, and I'll agree to do it, I need you to agree that you're going to do this service for me. And also, that you aren't going to let me be stabbed in the back. I have, after all, turned you to face the knife yourself. I ought to get the same courtesy from you.
I put out my metal arm for a handshake.
Okay. He reaches out his arm, you crush it. Ah, no, I'm just kidding. No. Yeah, he reaches it out, and slowly. As he does so, the defender just stands up and just looks in the two of yours direction. Doesn't do anything, just stands and looks.
You have my word as whatever other than a scoundrel I have one thread of left.
As one
No
of the
other member of the King's Citadel will bring you any harm.
And he nods slowly and he says, "It's so good to know the saviors of Brayland have rubbed off on you. All right. When do you want this meeting to happen? I assume it has to be quick."
As soon as leave one of your men at the tavern for further instructions. I'll make sure that when I speak next to Brasal, you've heard everything that you need to hear, and we have a place to meet.
He nods and he says, "All right, we'll be ready." And he goes, and around you in the trees, you see suddenly crossbow, like 8 guys at least around you with crossbows. And he says, "One of these will be waiting. And, Rowan, be careful on your way back. It's amazing what can happen these days. People just, every day, get lost." And he kind of grins and nods to you, and then heads off basically past you into the forest. And suddenly the crossbows vanish, and the defender sort of looks at you, turns, and walks into the forest after Zodor, leaving you alone.
Cool, fun. I need to find myself out of the cool, grand.
It's not that hard, to be honest. It's like you're like not that far inside the area so you could probably trace it pretty easily.
Yeah, cool. I cast light. I walk my way out of the forest and back to Salvation.
Okay. Just before I I move off from you, are you heading to? I know you said you wanted to do training stuff. Are you headed to Hilar? Are you headed to the training? Where do you want to go?
I want to go speak to Ilarion first and foremost.
Okay, so I think Ilarion is also at the same time going to have, that means training basically. I think you're going to meet Ilarion just before the training happens. So, all right, speaking of Ilarion, let's talk about that. Ilarion, you were, I think, going to be heading off to do some training, but you had 1 or 2 places you wanted to do first. I want to make sure we don't spend too long on that because I want to make sure we get, everyone else rolling, but
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, one of them actually involves Nisiana, so that's fine.
Sounds good.
So they tell Hilar that if Rowan comes back looking for them, he can find them either at the Church of the Silver Flame or at the sheriff's building, headquarters, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, but go to the church first. If I'm not there, I'm at the sheriff's. Okay? So I just want to make sure you get the message.
Okay.
And then I asked Nisiana, do you wish... I understand that clerics of different faiths can sometimes be... not see eye to eye. Do you wish some assistance in setting up your triage department at the church?
I don't need it, but I wouldn't mind your company.
Very well. Shall we? As
Yes.
has been stated, time is a wasting.
I wave to Marinette.
And we'll see you all later. If anyone else needs me, I will be first at the church, then at the sheriff's building. And we head out.
Okay. So as you make your way over to the church, and you can certainly speak to each other if you want to.
We're going to speak to each other
I
first.
figured, yes. I figured as much.
And Larian is busy looking around, taking in how the town has changed since they were last there, but they'll be paying attention. It's all good.
Just before you start talking, can I ask, because I don't think I did this, does anyone know why there's a massive green line down the middle of the town? Did someone draw that for a reason?
Yes.
Okay.
It will become clear shortly.
Okay, great. Yeah. I was curious.
I've dug a trench of radioactive liquid.
I was going to say, I've drawn a green neon marker down the center.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And...
Get past our traps, will you?
That's right.
Yes, everyone's died from radioactivity, but no one gets salvation. No, okay.
That's right. That's
right.
right.
I was just
all become clear.
All right, on you go. You may proceed.
So yes, I'm floating along, and Nisiana's walking, and yep.
Once we get to a point where we're away from Pilar's place, and I don't know, there's a spot where there's like a box or something that I could stand on. I get Ilarion to stop and ask him to put me on the box so I can talk to him face to face.
Must be a pretty tall box, but okay. All right, and they.
Well, I'm not talking to your freaking knee.
Yeah, well. In that case, they say, "Well, let me make it easy for you," and they sit down, and they're still floating off the ground, but they're now sitting so they're more level.
Oh man, okay.
Ilarion, I am going to ask you a question, and because you're not a stupid person, and I am not a stupid person, I would appreciate it if you do not treat me like a stupid person when I ask you this question.
Go ahead.
When you said officers can die on the battlefield, what was your intent? And do not treat me like a child.
It was not to state that we should have any involvement in an officer being killed on the battlefield. If that was your inferment of my statement, I think you may have been leaving a little bit to a conclusion. I have been in enough battlefields, as have you, to know that the luck, or some would say unluck, of war is a very capricious thing.
You are not a stupid person. We were in a point in a conversation where you say something like that, you intimate something could happen and that you could be part of it. Was that your intent?
Not directly, as in I did not intimate directly that we, the King's Citadel members, should go out and, for want of it, let's be plainly here, assassinate they wave off at the big monolith thing. Yeah. Assassinate the leader of the military. No, that would go very poorly for many reasons. Not at all.
And yet you still said what you did.
If this general is as incompetent as we've been led to believe, and I do need to confirm that because I realize that everything we've talked about among all of us has all been secondhand. We do not have any actual evidence other than he would seem to dress a little foppishly from what I've heard from you people, but we have not seen him directly foul anything up by his own orders. In fact, once I got over my initial reaction over his plan, it's not a terrible plan overall. If it works, if we can get everyone moving in the same direction. And that's what led me actually to reconsider my opinion of him. However, as I recall, Bera said she knew how he achieved this position. And I think a follow-up conversation with her is very important. So we know how he achieved this position.
There are people who act unbecomingly of their position. We are not those people. And I want to make sure that you are not that person, even with your 100 years and the fact that you've been in war. I want to know now that you are not that person.
I am not that person unless it is in a situation where to not act would be a greater tragedy than to act. I will be very clear about that. And I think we are all that type of person. If that action is all that stands between the town's destruction and its survival, then I would have to reconsider my path forward.
Well, then I would like to counsel that you keep your temper. Because, as you said, on second thought, the 4 T's were not quite as bad as it seemed.
Quite.
I am going to go see him. I do want to see if I can fix his malady. Foppish or not, gaining his position by dint of his family or not, he is a general, and he is also a man who is currently suffering. And we should never forget that. We are the type of people who look for the lowest, but even those in high positions may be at their lowest stint. And I want to solve that. I want to help him. And I think that that is something that I want to make clear.
If there is a way that improving his health would ideally make him a better commander, I'm all for that.
And I certainly think that not having dysentery would make him a better commander in general.
I would have no knowledge of that particular condition since I do not suffer from
and that is
particular
why I'm
frailty.
To you, because you do not understand what it is like to lose control of your body in that way. Imagine as if your fist suddenly started punching yourself in the face spasmodically and you had no control over it.
Well, I mean, I understand your point. That's not entirely recently. I did have that experience when we were all, I guess the word is knocked unconscious outside the fortress, the flying fortress.
Knocked unconscious.
I normally am not. This was a first for me, and it was very disconcerting.
And you should have more empathy.
Well, I'm still kind of trying to come to terms with it. I had a peculiar vision. But if I have upset you or caused you insult, then I apologize. That was certainly not my intent.
I think you did not show our group well with the statement that you made in front of Pilar Brasol. I think you spoke hastily, and I think you gave an impression that should be untrue, and that you should never have said it.
There we're going to have to disagree. I did choose my words with intent behind them. Part of it was to feel Mr. Brazal out. And to be honest, again, if that act is all that stands between the saving of salvation and its destruction, I don't know if we'll have time to have another conversation. But again, I will rethink my path forward. But it is my sincerest hope it does not come to that. It is my sincerest hope that the defenses we are able to mount are able to save the town without such base measures becoming necessary. Absolutely.
I understand sometimes we have to do things, bad things in the name of good. I do understand that. We have done that.
Indeed.
And
Indeed.
we have done it with
Knowing
less.
what we risk, I think, is the best way to say it.
Yes. But to lay such a plan out like this, it is a slippery slope. And I just want you to consider that. I would like
for sure.
to consider what you have said, and we're not those people. And I would be dearly disappointed if you were.
I have to admit, it was heartening for me to have Hilar Brazal stand immediately on that side, the side of good.
I think he's going to get tired of you testing him.
Perhaps. I don't think I have any more need to do so. Now, granted, again, I hope that his sense of right and wrong, given what he does with the Citadel, will never become an obstacle for us, which I don't think it will. But you are right. Sometimes bad must be done in the service of good. But that is a dangerous path. Believe me, I have no desire to become the next Lord of Blades. I would not wish that on any land. It is not a thing that should be visited on Eberron.
Wakes up one day and says, I want to be the bad guy. They fall bit by bit, step by step, careless word by careless word, or intentional word.
The Lord of Blades thinks they are doing what is right for their people, which makes them even more
Again,
dangerous.
nobody believes that they're doing bad.
But when you look at the centuries of oppression by the on the Warforged by humans, to them, it is not a bad thing what they're doing. Others, of course, will think it very different.
Now, do you actually think I'm going to have problems speaking with the Silver Flame about setting up a trauma ward?
She can be prickly. I have every confidence in you, but my offer was a sincere one. However, if you feel it is not necessary, I would probably most likely move on to Whist and the sheriff and start working out the defense of the town.
I'm fine with you bringing it to Lady Johanna.
I am perfectly happy to let you lead the conversation. I have every faith in your abilities. It is just, I know that some churches and others, I don't know how to say this without possibly offending you, but let's say don't see eye to eye on certain matters of faith. Let's put it that way.
All things do serve Eberron, whether they understand it or not.
There you go. So, I tell you what, perhaps I will simply, well, no, you've actually, out of game, you've met her before, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely. And we've worked together, and you have, and then the reason I'm talking to you is I know that you have not worshipped at the Silver Flame, but you have made yourself invaluable, which she is not turning down because, yes, Lady Johanna, Mother Johanna can be incredibly prickly.
Yes.
So,
yes.
but she's just like,
yeah, exactly. Always. Yeah.
How did I cheat you out? Do you think I'm incompetent? I'm just sure, just clearing the air here.
Not at all. Not at all. But they know also sometimes their presence can be helpful, even if they don't say a word. Okay. All right. Well, in that case, I'm glad we had this conversation. Shall we away to the church?
Yes.
All right. You stand up, and
basically have you help me off the box.
Actually, they'll pick you up, and so we can move a little bit quicker. No offense. They'll put you on their shoulder and kind of start moving through town again over to the church.
So then we
have a better vantage point.
Yep, we have a Master Blaster moment, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
I should get a pauldron with it's almost like a seat, almost but not quite.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he hasn't carried me around before.
Exactly.
In the battle or.
Yes, that is fair enough. Okay. So you proceed to the other side of town to the Chapel of the Silver Flame, and when you come in, I guess I would put this is under sort of tasks various, so I can kind of keep my own mind straight about the notes and so on. When you come in, you can see that the chapel at this time of day is mostly empty. and you can see that there is one person in it, and it is, in fact, the aforementioned Mother Johanna, who is right now kind of, from what you can tell, kind of is up front and seems to has like a hammer and some nails, and seems to be essentially boarding up the windows, if you want to put it that way, from the inside, and has her back turned to you when you enter. And of course, there's this doof, 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 you know, as she's hammering away, and so does not hear you when you first come in.
And Valerian will set her down and let her, kind of like her show. To look to her for the lead.
I will walk forward calling, "Greetings, Mother Johanna."
And she kind of, doof, and then turns, looks over her shoulder, and, yes, I had heard. I had heard that you had returned. And she kind of turns around and stands. She looks, I wouldn't say tired, but more lines of worry have appeared in her face since the last time you saw her. And there's a kind of not current weariness, but a sort of overall bone weariness that you can kind of see in her. And she says, the only time I see any of you coming to this is if you have some need of me. I don't mean that in a negative way, simply that it usually means that there will be some trouble that follows. What is it that I must prepare for? We're doing what we can already, as you can see, but what would you have of the Silver Flame?
Would that we could meet on less urgent business.
She nods.
You have heard Lord Iresh's announcement?
Yes, he's made it clear that there is this invasion, and we must be ready. It's not the first one, as you know.
No.
Salvation has often been the subject of attacks.
You are the first person I thought of after this, because you are one of the hearts of this city. Though he did not mention it, I think under his tasks we need to set up a trauma ward. There will be injured.
Trauma ward.
And you've done that before. I've seen you do it. And I was wondering if you would allow me to assist you.
And she kind of, she sort of nods slowly and she says, don't take this the wrong way, but you and I are motivated by different faiths. And although I am always appreciative for the help of others, and I have nothing against House Jarasco, the Silver Flame does what it does, not for money or wealth or the status of a house, but for the glorification of the Silver Flame. I am concerned that your motivations may be different.
I am a healer, and this is one of the things that I do. I have worked in the trauma wards during the war. I know the injuries that happen, and I know I have the skills to help.
And she kind of glances over at you, Alarian, and she says, so, you, Lady Jarasco, will be with us during this fight to come? You'll be in the trauma ward with us?
I will be where Alarian puts me, but I believe that will be the trauma ward. I will be here in this sector.
And she kind of nods and looks over at Alarian and says, she is a healer, but you are not, Alarian. Where exactly will you be? Is the general, you think, accurate? Is the attack that he says is coming going to come? And what will you do when it does, I wonder?
At this point, we have no reason to believe it is not coming. We have been tasked by the good general with shoring up the defenses of the town, which I will be off to do once this meeting is ended. I expect I will be on the front lines, directing the attacks with Wist and others, the militia. We have much to do and little time to do it. However, I believe that Nisiana Jarasco's place certainly is here. For this is not like the last time. This will not be like the last time, where fortune and some brave townspeople were able to turn the tide. This is an all-out assault against a force that likely this town has never seen before. It will be extremely bloody. We will try to keep them from penetrating the town, but we cannot guarantee that that will happen. So, having both of you working in concert will be the, believe it or not, one of the most powerful weapons as well as beacons of hope we could ever hope to have.
You can see her shoulders kind of sag a little bit, and when you say the thing about the conflict being bloody, and she, hold on a second, and she says, "One moment, my aide is knocking at my church door. Hold on one second."
My dinner has arrived.
How come we don't have room service?
Right?
Well,
You
as
do.
soon as
You
my
have,
lunch is done, I'm running downstairs and grabbing.
you have bakery
dinner.
service, Marie. I think you already do. So, come
Oh,
on.
that's true. She does.
Uh-huh.
The cookies will be awaiting me during break. It's gonna be great.
Okay, sorry about that. So she suddenly suddenly her aide comes forth and says, "Hello." So I just recruited a bunch of new actors just to make this to increase the verisimilitude of the whole okay. So she says, so her shoulders sag when you say this business about it being a bloody conflict, and she says, "I sometimes do wonder whether there is a reason, Ilarion, that salvation must stay in the place that it is. I have tried to minister to these people, but it is very difficult when these people are constantly under threat. I don't know what I'm preparing them for, if it is simply to last another day before destruction." And she kind of like lifts her head slowly and she says, sort of pointing at the half-done, hammering of the boards, and she says, "Even if we make this trauma ward, why exactly do we keep them here? Keep them alive so they can face what? Enslavement? Destruction tomorrow? I would have hoped that your group could have stopped the hammer from hitting here. That we don't have more people to heal. More people to bandage temporarily." Her voice is a little ragged. You can kind of, see that she's been clearly through it.
If there were a way to do that, believe me, I would do anything in my power to prevent the fighting from invading this town yet again. It is my hope we will be able to do that, but I cannot guarantee it. And that is why the Silver Flame's light is even more important in these dark times. That it must shine out as a beacon to let those who are good, and they cast a sidelong glance at Nisiana, recognize that there is still good, not only in salvation, but even in the gray. It is vital that that light not be extinguished, that it not go out, and that all those who participate in this fighting, that hopefully they will be bonded together. And it is a terrible thing when it is war that binds people together, but sometimes I wouldn't call it unnecessary, but sometimes it just is. And if that is to give them the sense of community that it sounds like perhaps they are still lacking, then perhaps some good can come out of all this. Still.
And she nods slowly and she says, "If there is anything that I can do to make this place ready, then I will help as much as I can. And I would welcome the help of a healer. And she kind of looks at you, Nisiana, and says, I would ask that your traditional fees not be associated with this effort. She
You
kinda
will,
says, like,
this church will not be charged anything. I give my skill of my own free will.
she nods and she says, "Will we hold this town?" And this is kind of to either one of you.
Mhm.
Sorry,
We'll
my
do it.
cat woke up from a nightmare.
And she's like, "Same. No, just."
We will do everything in our power to save salvation. I have feelers already out to other people. I am mustering everything in the town's defense that I can, everything that since we have first come here, leveraging all my connections, all my associations, all my friendships. And then they stare at her very intently on that one to ensure that salvation will see them word.
Then she shrugs and says, "Then the chapel is yours, to the extent it can be of service."
I thank you. We thank you. And they reach out and put their hand on her shoulder and kind of almost like they're trying to will some strength into her by their touch, which is, I know it seems a little weird, but it's true, just to kind of take out a bit of her burden.
You're struck, by the way, Ilarion, as you touch her shoulder between her robes, how thin she is, how fragile in a way, how for all of the outer strength that she's repeatedly shown over months and months and months and months of trying to keep these people moving, how she feels like you could push and you'd almost, break her in two. That she feels extremely, fragile below the robe that you feel.
How many more windows need to be boarded up here?
It looks like, from what you can tell, another 3 or so. She's got one of them sort of half done. And by the way, not the most, not the best job on earth. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not really, yeah.
So they reach out and gently, which she probably hasn't put it down. She's still holding the hammer. They take it from her hand and say, I would like you to rest for a bit. I sense that you are weary with what you've been carrying. Perhaps you should go lie down. I will finish up the working here. Go now and rest for a bit.
And she nods, although she doesn't actually go to lie down, but she does sort of sit in one of the front benches.
Close enough.
And kind of watches. Nisiana, do you have anything else that you want to set up here with her as far as the chapel? She will put the resources of it as such as it is available to you. She does have some, clean cloths and sheets and things like that. She doesn't have much in the way of beds or soft material or anything like that. It's pretty much benches are where it's at in this place.
I can go to like one of the inns or something and get some stuff. Or I can go, since I really want to go talk to the general, I can go requisition some stuff.
Before we split up there, hold on a second. Yeah. I asked Nisiana to come with me over to like the window furthest from Mother Jorasco, Jalindra, and when we're far enough where I'm pretty sure we can't be heard, and we'll kneel down as if kind of pointing out aspects of the church, and I say, "She is near exhaustion. You may need to assist her in the next 24 hours to be ready for this. If she were to fall, it would not be a good thing for the town. So I just felt you should know that."
Okay.
Obviously, I know you will do what you can.
I will have to assess whether or not she's actually sick or she's just exhausted and not eating.
Yeah. I leave it. You are a healer. I will leave it to you to do what you do best. And then they rise and start with swift strokes, start hammering the boards up fairly quickly.
Okay.
Because it won't take much for me to take care of that.
I'm going to have Nisiana, I want you to make a wisdom check for me. We're going to see how effective you are in building this stuff together. And Ilarion, when we get to the training thing, I'm going to have you and Rowan making a similar check for 18. The training side of things. Okay. Yeah. I think what this means is that you are able to kind of put some things together, and there will be a benefit to this that we will get, that we'll talk about when we actually get to when we get to these things. I have a little bit of a benefits list based upon success or failure. So, so I would say that's a success to begin with. So.
That's good.
And Nisiana, we will come back to you as far as that's concerned. But is there anything else you want to say before and Lauren, I'm going to jump away from you to
I figured.
Merime and Tanton, then I'll come back to you with the training with Rowan. So
Before I see General Tyrell, I do want to do the legend lore thing. So I guess tonight I will do the legend lore on the Lord of Blades, looking for weaknesses or things that he doesn't.
okay, we'll come back to that. Sounds good. Okay, then I am going to jump next to Merime and Tanton. Now, Merime will deal with the night stuff at night. So this is the preparation previous to that. So Tanton and Merime, do you either of you have anything individual you want to do before I talk about how you want to handle the trap stuff?
I mean, how far were we from the mists that we had, the rainbow mists that we'd left?
Right. They have not advanced out of where the gray is. So they have come up to basically the edge of the gray. So now you see not just the usual swirling gray, but also this rainbow kind of infusion with it as well. So it's off to the east of the town. It's creepy.
If I assume that Tanton is kind of busy for a little bit, so I might just after Nisiana and Ilarian head off, I might just go for a little stroll there and just kind of peek with my brain and see if I can sense any intelligence behind it.
Ah. Okay.
Little stroll.
Yeah. Do you have a particular check that you're thinking about? Because this is not like a dream walking type of thing, I don't think.
No, I think it'd be maybe insight.
Okay.
She says, knowing she gets advantage on those checks.
It might be maybe that.
Yeah.
Perhaps I could stab at the mist.
Possibly.
I would like to stab them with insight, but it would be like
Your piercing insight, absolutely. What are you talking about?
right.
Oh, good.
So kind of feel my way through and see if I can get anything on the vibes, any vibes on the.
I tell you what, I'll give you a wisdom check on this. I don't think it's going to be insight, because you're not really determining the motives of this cloud. But I'll give you a wisdom check to see if you can sense anything else about it. Let's put it that way.
All right, let's see how this roll goes. I've got the black dice today to go with my nails, by the way. So I go
very
15.
Nice, very nice. Just okay, 15. I will take that in just 1 second. Hold on one moment.
Yeah, no worries. Kenton, I just kind of left you behind. I assume that you're
Okay, there we go.
busy.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll do this part quick because I want to make sure that I get onto
Yeah.
the trap section with you as well. But
Of course.
so you said a 15.
Mm-hmm.
So during some of your earlier training, when you were growing up and you were working with your mentor, and this is before joining the military, this is when you were still relatively young, as the Kalashtar tell it. There was the experience of dreams are a place where, for the Kalashtar, things become, I wouldn't say clarified for them exactly, but where they can grab onto things. The way you've always imagined it is you'd like dreams that you can kind of grab onto. You can be like, this gives me a path. This is a place where I can feel safe and comfortable. But there is an experience that all Kalashtar have, which is the term is it is the horror of confusion. That is to say, whereas Kalashtar find clarity in their dreaming, you have been told that other cultures and races often have this experience of mystery, of obscurity, of things being harder. And there is, at the highest level of that, what essentially feels like what would happen if someone were burned out, too much overstimulated, something like that. This feels a little bit like that, as if what you're looking at is the raw nerve of a nightmare, the experience of having the part of you that can understand and clarify things without the confusion of consciousness here becomes magnified to a horrifyingly confused level. And there's a part of you, Marimé, that almost feels like if you're not careful, this kind of thing could invade you, could almost, not invade is not the right word, could corrupt you, let's put it that way, so that your dreams would be like this, a roiling madness of color, rather than the calm clarity that you have always wished for from your dreams and visions. There is a palpable fear standing here looking into this mix.
Okay. Do I feel like the fear is, I don't know if this question will make sense or if I can parse it correctly, but do I feel like this fear is something that is generated from within the cloud, or is it something generated from within me because of the cloud?
Very hard to say, except
Okay.
that it's like staring at something which is horrifying, and that
Okay.
generates a certain kind of fear in you.
Okay, I'm gonna back away.
Yeah, this sucks. It's basically
Yeah,
what
you suck.
yeah,
Give us back Spanner.
yeah.
And I'm gonna back away, but I'm gonna file that away.
Okay.
And it kind of stayed where it came to the edge of the gray, and it hasn't moved from there. Like it seems to be settled there.
Yes.
Okay.
Settled as much as any kind of roiling cloud can be, but yes.
Fair. Okay. I'm gonna go back to town. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go find Tenton and see what he's up to.
Tanton, what are you up to just before the trap experience?
Tanton is in the tavern,
Okay.
and he has pushed a bunch of tables together and has basically laid out either, it's difficult to tell, either one very large sheet of paper
Okay.
or several many smaller sheets of paper, which have been kind of stitched together on which is sort of drawn a baseline map of the town. And there are really damn confusing schematics at like every intersection and various formulae and whatnot. But off on one side is a piece of like a larger piece of paper, not larger than the whole, but larger than any single piece, that isn't connected to any of it, and on it is something that looks like two funnels sort of stuck together at their narrowest points, and there are measurements on the outsides of this funnel and measurements on the inside that don't match up,
Okay.
and that's kind of tucked over on one side.
Drawn, by the way, sorry, drawn funnels?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay. So then I would say Mermaid.
But he's got several people from the town, and he's trying to explain to them what these different schematics are, because they are traps, but they're complicated, based on what he knows of Warforged design and what it's going to take to stop any of them. And so they're probably unnecessarily complicated, or at least under these circumstances, they need to be simpler. He is just trying to explain, no, it's like this, and nobody's getting it, and he's getting frustrated.
Okay. I would imagine Marimé probably walks in the midst of this. One of the townspeople is just saying to you, Tanton, like, yes, but if they go left here, then it means they're not going to spring it, right? They got to go the right side, this
left.
way.
To the right. Yes, not the left.
Well, right. That's what I meant. I mean,
Left.
Yeah. Well, so if they go, and so they're like pointing to these different sides, right? And eventually he says, but it could hit our own people. I mean, they go that way. right down here, and he's like pointing at the funnel. Then they're going to be in there, and they're going to be.
That's not in the funnel. That's a different sketch.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's to the. I'm sorry. That's to the side. One of the intersections. So he's like, if I go this way, then they're going to run right into it. Yeah. Well, but how are they going to know? I mean, what happens if they?
It's very simple. You stay behind these traps and try to lure the army in toward you. If they're going to come in anyway, you might as well get them to go towards something that's going to do them a tremendous amount of damage.
All right. Well, I mean, can you set up a sample? I mean, just to see what it looks like outside. You know, like maybe right outside, just the place, and then see what the trap looks like when someone walks into it. You know. I mean, we wouldn't put a real person in it.
All right. Thank you. I was going to say, who would you volunteer for that?
No, you know.
Yes, I could set up a small demonstration of one or two of these, but probably not more than that. It will take a while to set them up, and we're talking about setting up 36 of them, so...
And they kind of nod and look at each other, and there's about 4 or 5 of these people that are murmuring. And it should be noted, by the way, that you do have... These are actually... Both of these people are trapsmiths that you've been given. So they're actually not utter incompetence, you know, like they do know it, but it's sort of you being like, no, here's how you do a Lamborghini. And they're like, well... Let's say that I want to take the carburetor and put it in old Mater there, right? Like it's not quite
Mater is a horse. You wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, it's a little bit not quite. So they're but they're not dumb at all. They do have a sort of knowledge, but not your sort of extensive knowledge that you're trying to think about. And they kind of go outside with you, eager to sort of see what the demonstration might look like. They basically tell you they just need one so they can kind of see it and then like replicate it essentially. If you're willing to do that, Tanton, then when you go out, that can be Merime can sort of come across this as you're in the midst of setting it up.
There's a scene in Firebirds where Tommy Lee Jones tells who's the not the bees guy.
Nicolas Cage.
Thank you.
Cage.
Yeah. So in Firebirds, where they're getting ready to get into the helicopter, and Tommy Lee Jones is like, "Step here, here, and here. Do not touch here, here, and here." And
exactly.
so that's kind of what he's doing. It's like, oh shit! Don't touch this part. Don't touch this part. But you need to tighten this part, and he's going through pretty quickly. So
I'm going to want a whole team of dogs all the way down this river and up this river. Next thing I want, like every role he ever plays, it pretty much is him, you know.
Whorehouse, hen house, outhouse.
So,
I love that line so much.
So when you were setting this stuff up, how long do you think it would take Tanton to set up one of these demos? Yeah,
probably
with some help from the Smiths.
They'd mostly be in the way. It's like no, don't touch. Hold it. Just hold it. Don't move. Probably 8 minutes.
Okay. So this actually works really well. So Tanton, you set up this demonstration thing. You know, you warn everybody first, like you're not supposed to come there. And Merime, you are just sort of coming back into the road when you can see clearly Tanton is setting up a trap. So you obviously know enough to avoid that. So you kind of go around and come from the south. But as you're coming from the south, you were surprised when suddenly marching swiftly past you is General Tyresh with 2 of his men, one of whom is he comes right up and is like, well, the time has come here for a surprise inspection. I wanted to make sure that you... And he steps right on the demo trap, Tanton, that you have set. Now, when he does this, tell me what the trap does, by the way. Immediate execution, I hope, is not quite the idea, but...
Oh, it's going to be damn
Splits him in half.
That's fine. He has very strong armor, but we'll talk about that.
Uh-huh. So basically what this is kind of it's kind of amusing that I was thinking of concertina wire earlier today. That if you've ever tried to put concertina wire on anything, it is very, very tightly coiled. And so if you touch it wrong, it will just wrap around you. And it is covered in razors.
Okay.
I mean, and they are very sharp, very hook, kind of razor. Yep. They're just delicious when you want to hurt somebody. And so basically what this thing is it has sort of a coffee can sized thing of what is basically razor wire that is torqued down to the point that when you step on it, it just explodes outwards in a tornado of wire that will wrap around something and start to constrict. And of course, the more you try to get out of it, the tighter it constricts and the more it cuts in. And it's just
what a lovely trap.
Yes.
So he walks right into this, and as you've described, spring, like these hooks sort of scrape onto the armor. Now, he has sort of this comically large, suit of armor, which is very gaudy. But in this case, actually serves him in good stead because there are so many angles and like hooks to it that what it essentially does is it doesn't hurt him. It just sort of, but what it does do is it clearly restricts him. And of course, he looks like a buffoon as he's trying to, like he's having his people in his. Some people come over. A couple of the trapsmiths come over, and they use these sort of heavy leather gloves to. So it takes.
And the Tan is like, no, don't touch it.
Okay, so they don't touch it, and then
unless you want to get caught up in it as well, don't touch it.
So with some care, basically, and like it takes probably 10-15 minutes for him to extricate himself, and of course he is just. His face is getting more and more beet red, as he's done with this. And he's like, of all the absolute incompetence to be able to set up a trap like this before anybody was ready. And he
Can
points,
I swoop?
Yeah, I'm about to get to you in one sec, Merriman.
You better.
I was thinking about it. He points not at Tanton, but at the two trapsmiths. And he says, you buffoons must have been responsible for this. And you cannot have you on the field of battle to do this kind of incompetence. They need to be taken away to the brig so his guards are behind him, and then you show up, Mermaid, I assume, at that moment.
I kind of swoop in front of him in my full glittery self. I said, General, I saw what you did there, and that was very brave of you to test the trap to make sure that they would be useful in the field of battle. You are braver than most men I have ever met to do such a feat. Thank you so much.
And there's sort of a
and
pause.
That you are unarmed is amazing, too. It shows your strength as well. Thank you.
His eyes kind of narrow, and he sort of looks at you, and he says, if you're attempting to convince me that this was all part of some greater plan and you're trying to butter me up, it's not going to work. I know when a trap has been set and when I have been meant to walk into it.
Oh, hardly. Not you. No, we were just debating who would be testing the trap. Yeah, I'm like standing in front of Tanton, just shuffling in front of him.
Yeah, quick note, by the way, Tanton. Trap worked perfectly, by the way. This thing's ready to go.
I know.
Yeah, it's all set.
No, we were just debating who would test it when you yourself took care of it, which perhaps was a bit of a surprise for you and us, but we do appreciate it. At least now we know that it works. And if you'll let us get to our job, as you know, we have tight times, we will get the rest of the trap set up with more careful measures this time, of course.
And he kind of like narrows his eyes further. I would like you to make a persuasion check for me, please, Marimay.
Okay. Hopefully I feel good about.
I thought you said, hopefully I fail. I was like, yeah. Hopefully I fail.
19.
Okay. So he kind of... and he kind of like... Fine, I'm glad the traps work properly. Just make sure they're directed towards the enemy this time, if you please. And he kind of turns on his heel and just marches off down the street with the guy, like, following after him with the pail. Tanton, I do want you to make a dexterity check here, please, for me, to see whether or not this trap is functional. Now, worked on him. Is it replicatable? Or replicable, if that's a word. I guess replicable would be better. Replicable.
Dexterity check?
That would be a dexterity check. If you've got, no, not a save. Check.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Can I inspire him?
Sure, if you're doing like a you got this type of thing.
Yeah, I'm going to turn to Tanton and say, that was an amazing trap. Can you do it again? I know you can.
Well, of course I can.
I have no doubt.
It's never a question of whether I can do it. It's a question of whether or not these folks can replicate it.
With your fine mentoring.
They look kind of wide-eyed, by the way, having just avoided being thrown in the brig, like with this.
Oh, that Tanton wasn't worried about that. If they had taken, if Mary hadn't stopped them and they'd started taking, Tanton would have gone with them.
He would have absolutely been like, "You're going to take my workforce? Fuck you!"
Yeah.
And he would have just been like, that would have been it. Like, "Oh, fine, let them in. I don't care."
And Tantan, even you would know that Miri was very amused by the entire situation at this point. This is like best show in town, and she was friends
Every
with him.
single time Bucket said incompetent, I wanted to go, "Incontinent, you mean?" I just so close.
So you get 1d8 of inspiration, my friend.
Thank you. That was my question.
I think I'm going to have a compassion discussion with Mia Tantan as well.
Good luck with that.
He might notice.
D8, you said, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that is great. That's a what? So
Wow.
13. Ooh.
I'm glad I could help.
Okay. So that actually, the 13 is better than would have been the case otherwise. So it does look like you are able to teach them enough, Tantan, that they will be able to replicate this. You don't know if they'll be able to do it as fast as you were able to do it, but you get the impression that they'll be able to do roughly. Like, they show you a version. Actually, watching the general go through it was very helpful to be like, oh, so that's how it's supposed to work. So they do a couple ones where you're kind of like, yeah, close enough for rock and roll. You know, like it probably will do enough to kind of make this work. And so I would say that this makes the traps a success. So to be clear, so far we have the trauma as a success, and we have so one of the tasks various, and the traps as a success. And we will come back to the theoretical impact of that a little bit down the line. Marimé, when you've come back to Tantan, is there anything in particular you want to do? Because next I'm going to jump to Alarian/Rowan for training here. But you can say if there's anything else you want to talk to Tantan about specifically, not related to this.
No, I'm going to see if he needs my help. And if he does not, or if he feels like he's got it in hand, I might go and try to talk to the townspeople, kind of get their vibe, and just, start to basically inspire people.
Okay.
I might use my talents that way if Tantan feels he does not need me. But if he wants me around, or if I feel that the trapsmiths need me around to interpret Tantan, I will also stay around.
Now, if they've got that, it may take them a little longer to set everything up, but if they've got it, then he's fine with that. What he's going to do is take that other piece of paper with the other sketch, and he's going to basically roll it up and kind of tuck it into a thing and grab some other equipment and start heading out and walking towards the gray.
You know what? I'm going to follow Tantan.
Okay.
I'm going to follow Tantan.
I want to track this a little further then, if I can, before I jump back to Alarian. So what happens when he goes to the gray?
He gets there and he sees the thing, and presumably at some point during the time between the little, dragonfly took off and then we all, to now, presumably everything has been explained to everybody. We all know what happened during that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tantan has now unrolled this thing, and he's looking at the rainbow shimmer. He's like,
it could be. Many, how much do you know about teleportation?
I mean, I don't know teleportation itself, but I know some of it. I can do dimension door.
All right, that's very, very similar. Yes. So imagine if you were trying to create a tunnel, which would shorten the distance between point A and point B. With something like dimension door, that takes place over a very brief period of time. But if it was something that needed to be sustained, but without the anchor points of a teleportation circle at either end, it could be that this is something similar, and that the little drone was attempting to go into it at this end and come out somewhere much farther away on the other end. But it could potentially be very unstable, and so anything caught inside it without the advantages of anchor points or being a short duration, things get a little bit munged when they pass inside. So this could be here, and the other end of it could be 10 feet from where the Lord of Blade's army is standing.
That would be bad. I reached into it with my mind to see what I could
glean.
glean.
Your mind. I was going to say, show me your hands.
No, not with my hands. I like my hands. I need them to play my lute and to stab people. But I reached into it with my mind, and I just got this darkness veritable stuff of nightmares, not at all rainbow and shiny like we see. It did not make me want to walk into it nor test any theory of teleportation, to be honest. I don't know if I could read, maybe, I don't think that my powers would go to read whatever was on the other side of it, if that's your theory.
Well, this isn't exactly teleportation anymore. This is more of a
Okay.
shunt, I think. It is just the
Okay.
distance inside this tunnel, if that's what it is, as I surmise. The distance inside it is much shorter than the distance outside of it. So
Are you thinking that's how they're going to come? That's how they're going to attack?
that would be my guess at this point. Just
Oh.
based on the fact that the little drone was trying to go into it. I think it was trying to report back via the shortest route possible, which, if I'm right, would be through this. And then on the way back, it's following all of us. I mean, if its intended destination was to allow the army to come here anyway, might as well follow us back. Allow us to be the anchor that pulls it here,
I mean, that does make a certain amount of sense.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, so the feeling that I got from it, then it would be from this or from...
My guess would be that your mind is having, even within a dream realm, your mind is having difficulty with the differential, spatial, dimensional differential between the inside and the outside of this event.
That made about as much sense as my Kalistar mentors made a lot of signs, so I
Then-
can get behind that.
Then perhaps this won't help. And he kind of looks around. I've been thinking about it, and given the sounds that we heard, and the apparent reports of the entity that came out and was subsequently interviewed without us present, or as near as I can tell, without even asking Clock anything, whatever, and then was disassembled and thrown back into the Grey, knowing how distorted and twisted the physicality became. This is the part that you might not like. It is also somewhere nagging in the back of my mind that the reason that no healers have been able to help the good general is that his problems are not a result of an illness, but as of having been through this.
You think he would have been through this? So he doesn't exactly strike me as the brave type.
Oh no, not brave, but cowardly, easily manipulated, and potentially working against us? Yes, I absolutely think that.
I'm not sure I got quite all of that from him, but it's possible. So you think that basically this thing will torment and tear asunder whoever went through it, whether metallic or biological?
I believe that he was at some point captured, possibly, and was subjected to the whims of some method of convincing, and in the process of being sent back, his insides got a little bit rearranged. Is a guess. I'm not saying that there's any proof of it, except for extremely circumstantial things, but it is something that is spinning in the back of my mind.
Well, I mean, keep it spinning. I don't know why the general would order us to prepare the town for battle then. Wouldn't it be better to just let the Warforged run us down unaware?
Oh, that wouldn't look like we put up a defense at all. He has to be seen to be doing his job.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on him for sure, but how would the Warforged travel here if the teleportation... Or do they have safety against that?
I doubt they have safety against it, but they are probably upgraded a little bit. Especially if any of them have more of those boats in them, they wouldn't feel the need to resist the idea of going through. I think when we see them show up, if they are a little bit damaged already from passing through this, we may have one other piece of evidence to that, but by that point we'll be in the midst of a fight, and who the hell knows?
Do you think we should add extra traps here, though, if we know that this might be their incursion point, if you will?
I think it's already bad enough that we're having this conversation in front of it.
I understand. I'm going to hop into your mind. You remember that I'm a telepath,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Uh-huh.
So then perhaps we would shoot away from here. I'm speaking in your mind now. No,
Well,
we're just
I imagine we may well have started doing this a while back.
yeah, I imagine so.
No, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that there's any sort of spying going on from the other side through this thing. They're probably watching us right now, and if we start setting up traps, they'll see exactly where they are. But
Right.
again, all of this, and he unfolds the paper again, making sure that it is not facing towards the thing. It's like, see, it goes in here and it comes out there. It's a shorter distance here and it's longer distance there.
Here's our entire defense plan for the town.
Like pointing it out, just in case you're curious. Like,
This is where we place the Inferno rounds.
Yeah.
special note for
Please
bullet
zoom
point
in.
2.
Precisely, yes.
Oh. Well, that's of concern, but a good observation and insight on your part.
Paranoia.
The paranoia is what might get us through this day, my friend.
Perhaps we could throw the general back through.
I don't think that we're quite there yet.
We could get there really quick.
If he is a traitor, then we will find out during the battle, and then, there are things to be done with traitor, and that's not necessarily execution. We can actually take him through the courts of the realm, through the king that we represent.
Yeah, I'm not entirely comfortable with that either.
Well,
We answer to the king. I don't think that we represent him.
that's true. He probably would be best if we did not represent him, in fact. That's why the King's Citadel is so down low, usually. But no, if he is a traitor, then I believe that Helar would be best suited to decide what happens to him, as he would know. We don't need his blood on our hands. We don't.
Well, if Hilar is not around at the time, I may make the decision for us.
If it's a split-second decision that we have to make to live or to die, then of course. We've never hesitated at that before. We have to.
Then it could be a split general decision.
But we should make sure, because right now he is keeping an eye on Salvation, and anything that happens to him could be seen as being Salvation's fault, and it could fall back on the town. So we have to make sure before we take any steps like that. We're here to protect Salvation, after all. Not get his bucket everywhere over it.
Which, in my opinion, would be getting him out of any planning or involvement with the defense of the city. The man is an idiot. And he is going to
Agreed.
get someone, if not us, plenty of the people of this city killed.
And it's our job to keep them safe for now, and then hopefully part of that keeping safe is getting him out of there. Not necessarily through killing him, though there are other ways, my friend.
Can he at least be in a couple of pieces? Still alive, but
Perhaps. I mean, Nisiana is very good at her healing magics.
all right.
Assuming you then head back to town, I want to come to Rowan next, because Alarian, I'm going to come to you in a second. But as you're going to be heading to the training momentarily, I know you have one other place you want to go first. But Rowan, as you are making your way back towards town, and I believe you were heading towards training in general, you again came from a different direction, because you're coming from the southeast of town and made your way out of the forest up towards the town, etc. And as you're headed in that direction, I would like you please to make a perception check for me, but I'm going to have you do this at advantage because of where you're coming from as this is all happening, because you're in a sort of a part of town that most people don't go to, basically.
Perception. 13. Ugh.
So as you are you're coming up to where the training is going to be taking place, but as I said, you're coming from the south, so you actually come up a couple of sort of side routes, basically, and as you're coming down one alley, you can see that standing off, you can first of all hear the sound of ha ha, let's get down to business. No, the training sound right off in the distance. You can hear that, but as you're sort of moving up here, you see there are actually four, obviously soldiers. There are what look like to be three humans, if you had to guess, and a halfling. They are all dressed in Brailish army uniforms. It looks like you have one who might be, you're not 100% sure about all the military ranks of everybody, but maybe like a sergeant. And then you have a couple of others who also have not as many bars and stripes, but basically lower ranking officials, if you had to guess, lower ranking officers. And as you're coming up the alleyway, you see four of them, and they have not yet noticed you, that are essentially whispering. They're not with the others training. They are whispering off in kind of this side alley. Definitely Brailish, as I say, and definitely Army, not Salvation citizens, but are sort of whispering to each other as the rest of the training is happening outside in the clearing beyond them.
They're not the
Can
Salvation
I
Army.
see their
Got it.
mouths?
Say that again. Can you see their mouths?
Yes.
You'd need to get a little closer to be able to. You can make out that they're whispering. You can't really see their mouths, no, because they almost. And this is the thing. They're sort of like shielding it quietly. I mean, they're not obviously doing something ridiculous, but like they're clearly not doing a "so how you doing" type of thing. So you'd have to get a little closer if you wanted to hear what they were saying.
I try to get as close as possible, as inconspicuously as possible.
Okay. Stealth check for me, please.
Yes. Stealth. 11.
Okay. So as you get close enough to hear something to the effect of, all right, and it's the one who is the sort of the sergeant of the group, or at least the one who seems to be leading, is a blonde-haired, has his helm off, so a blonde-haired sergeant who seems to be the commanding officer. And he says, "Remember, you're only going to get one chance at this." And then he sees you. At that point, he's like, "Oi!" And he stops and he says, "You came the wrong way there, stranger. You got to go around. This place is blocked off."
Blocked off? Why?
By the army. And the other three, you can see all four of them are staring at you, like.
Have you seen a warforged on the surface of the army? Name is Ilarion.
And one of them says, "I don't." And the sort of three of them look confused. One of the other lower-ranking officers, the halfling, says, "Oh, you must be talking about that one who came with the other group. They say he works for Braylon, but not the army." "No, I think he may be over with the others doing some training. You ought to go find him." And the others nod. "Yeah, you should go. You should go find him. Yeah, go find him."
All right. Keep to whatever obviously good and productive work you seem to be about here. And I walk away.
Okay. They watch you, and you can sort of like, as you're kind of, if you look over your shoulder every so often, like they watch you all the way until you get to like the corner and can like turn the corner onto the street, just staring at you as you're walking away.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can.
Yeah, I leave them to their business. Like, it would make no sense to.
Yeah, that's fine. You can file that away, but just something very odd there. And when you come back around the corner to where you can see there are a number of people that are training here as they are supposed to. There's a few dozen soldiers, from what you can tell, with what look like sticks, presumably serving as sort of temporary spears maybe, and then shields that are standing at the ready. And you can see there's a grizzled old man who's standing in front of them. And he says, "Right. You're never going to understand what hits you unless you're ready to protect yourselves when it does. So let me tell all of you. You may think you've seen it all. Well, you ain't. You may think you've heard it all. Well, you ain't. You may think you've been it all. Well," he looks at one of them who's sort of staring at him, "you ain't. The only one of us who's seen all of these things, that's me. And you sorry, pathetic lot. If I were the Lord of Blades, I'd spend my time laughing rather than worrying about you. This lot's got to be trained up and made ready, and we don't have much time to do it. So listen well." And he's doing a lot of this stuff.
Am I coming up?
Yes.
Am I coming up ahead or behind this guy?
Behind this guy, although, and all the soldiers can kind of see you, the trainees can kind of see you as you're walking up.
I'm making bunny ears behind him as I come up.
So a couple people at the front are like, like, he's like, "What? You find this funny, do you? You'll find it less bunny when there's a blade in your arse. Then you'll find it." Right. He says,
Less bunny?
when he
Okay.
says buddy, the guy in the front is like, starts giggling again. He's like, "So you think there's something funny behind me?" And then he turns to see you, Rowan. And he kind of stares at you.
The moment that he turns, I pull out Sunshine and I have it resting. I have the barrel of it resting against his cheek.
And he stops. And he resting against Rowan's cheek or the other guy's cheek?
The other guy's cheek.
Oh.
Like this.
So he's like,
"Hi.
"What are you
Did
doing?"
you see this?"
No.
I put it back. Just wanted to make note of that. "Cool. Hi. I'm looking for Illyrian."
And he kind of like, makes sure that his cheek is okay. And he says, "I ain't seen him. You have anything else you want to do here?" He's kind of staring at you. And the others are all, like, everyone is riveted looking at, like, what you're going to say.
I turn to everybody very quickly. Whatever this stern tree trunk is about to tell you, after everything that he's just said, I'm confident is going to be genuinely useful once he teaches you how to actually hold a blade instead of be afraid of one. But beyond all that, one more thing you absolutely must know. Don't be afraid. It's going to be very easy in this moment to be afraid. It's going to come to you naturally. It's going to do so because we don't like dying. And to be sure, a lot of this is going to be very rough, very brutal, and very bloody. But you're doing it for your kin. You're doing it because no one else can or will ever trust you to do that but your neighbor. There are people to your left and your right of you who also never found themselves in a situation like this, never dreamed of a situation like this, who are willing to risk the exact same thing that you are. And that risk makes what we're about to do the most glorious thing that salvation has ever done. Now, let this battle axe teach you how to actually hold a blade. I'm going to look for my friend. Anyone see a flying warforged?
So they're all sort of like just enraptured, like listening to this. And Illyrian, I'll go back and deal with the other, like we'll sort of retcon it, if you will, and go back and talk about the person that you talked to before you arrived here for training. But I'd like, if Illyrian, if you're okay with this, have you just come up here pretty much just as he says that. Like, has anyone seen the
Yeah,
Flying
that's
Warforged?
fine. The only person I need to visit was Whist ahead of time.
That's
but
fine.
if
I'll
you
come
point-
back
if they
to
point
Whist
me,
later.
Yeah, we can flashback that.
Okay.
Okay.
So you
Yeah,
come up.
I am here.
And the grizzled old guy is like, so I see. He looks very irritated, Ilarion. You're not sure why. He keeps glaring at Rowan.
Yeah, what is the expression on Rowan's face?
I'm pleased. I am absolutely in glee.
All right, and this gentleman is someone from the army, clearly.
Yes, clearly a trainer of some kind from the army.
Right.
You can see he's got the military uniform and everything.
Yeah. What's his rank?
If you had to guess, probably a sergeant.
I mean, I should know it after my time in combat.
Yeah,
so I
probably
doubt the British military has changed all this time. So
it
if I
looks
can
like a sergeant. Yes.
3 up, 3 down into the inning. Yes, it'll just nod respectfully to the man. There's no reason not to. Say, carry on, sergeant.
And
then,
yep. Okay.
And then I point to Rowan and motion him to join me.
Okay.
And actually,
yes.
what we're going to do is stand off as kind of like advisors watching the training. But I wish to talk to him and get an update.
Then before you do that, I'm going to have Rowan make for me. I will take either deception, intimidation, or what this sounded like to me, Rowan, was persuasion. But you tell me if you think that's what it sounded like to me.
For the trainer?
Yes, for what you just did with the trainer, followed by your little mini speech there.
To the trainees.
The
Oh
trainees,
yeah, that's definitely persuasion. So let's roll persuasion.
Don't forget, Chad, inspirations are a thing. For those of you who have those, don't forget.
Yeah. What was that? Yuck! That was a 7. Everyone here is gonna do so poorly now. Oh my god.
They're just like, okay. So, you get the impression as you gave this that they were really like into this, but they also, as you were like, you don't be afraid and all this kind of stuff, and you get the impression that the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak. As you're kind of standing to the side talking with Ilarion, these folks need time that they're not going to get. You get the impression that if they were given a few more days, they might be able to, if they could have like a week, you might be able to drill them into something. As is, though, there's a lot of like, they hit each other maybe a little bit more than the sort of, combat dummies in front of them type of thing, that you're a little worried about the state of the trainees of this group, I would say. So the reason this is going to be important is we have a success on the traps. We have is anyone doing trenches, by the way? Did we talk about that? Or was no one doing trenches?
I left that to the military.
Okay, that's what I
people
thought.
doing that for him.
Okay,
yeah.
so we don't know what's going on with the trenches yet. The traps, I would say, is a success, and one of the tasks, various, was a success. I don't know that the training would be a success here, Rowan, necessarily. And I should note that I'm going to talk about something with General Tyresh in a minute. But Ilarion, you wanted to get an update from Rowan first.
Well, so yeah, and
Right.
keep in mind, I'm watching the training happen while I'm listening
Yeah.
to him. So it's kind of like he's talking to my side. I'm actually watching them because I do want to get a feel for exactly what you told him they were doing.
Yeah, you're a bit
Oh,
underwhelmed by what you've seen, Ilarion, so
Well,
far.
okay. So
While this is happening,
Yeah.
I want to do a thing, but I want to clarify a thing.
Okay.
Can you subtle spell that cantrip?
Can you subtle spell a cantrip? Probably. Probably you can.
Okay. I
spell. Oh,
want to subtle spell mage hand.
Okay.
And I want to like
Yes.
essentially.
The answer is yes. I have consulted a source, and the answer is yes, you can.
So I'm going to essentially single out the member of this training group who is like doing the worst in blade work while they're sparring.
Right.
I'm just gonna gently nudge his arm in such a way that the movements that he's failing in that spar, he's actually somehow getting off perfectly.
So he's
Just so
kind of,
other people can
and then he's, then he gets this kind of grin on his face. It's like, ha, 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 and I imagine there's a moment where you're doing that, and then Ilarion says something and you're not noticing, and then he's like, like practically hits himself in the face. There's a moment though where his confidence definitely soars, Rowan, for sure.
Nice. That was the goal.
Okay, so as this is happening, Larian, what did you want to chat with Rowan about?
So we basically look at him and say, "Were you successful?"
More so than I thought I would be, which is terrible in and of itself.
Clarify.
I got to speak to Tarav himself.
And they kind of look at you for a moment. That was unexpectedly quick. I thought he'd gone to ground.
He had. He's in the woods, waiting it out. He was before this point perfectly prepared to let salvation tear itself asunder, in the hopes that it would still have enough business left for him to return to after the mess had been cleaned up. And I had to work very hard to convince him that maybe he should speak to you before that happens. And he's agreed to do so tonight.
Good. Once I'm done here, we will go meet him directly.
We're not meeting him, he's meeting you.
I will go meet him directly. Where is this to happen?
Wherever you want him to, wherever you want it to, but it needs to happen in Salvation.
I don't need it to happen in Salvation. I would prefer actually that if he feels there's a problem with the town, having him come into the town will put him on edge. I will meet him outside of Salvation.
I convinced him very strongly to do it for me. Is this a problem for you?
I need him to be as comfortable as possible. If for whatever reason he feels he is not comfortable in Salvation, making him come in here will make him uncomfortable. I thought a student of human behavior would be able to recognize that better.
I do. I would like to let you know that he's mighty comfortable because he's asked me to do him a favor.
And what is that?
Haven't the foggiest clue, but I've promised it to him, and his promise to me was he'd meet you in a safe house in Salvation. I imagine would be any of your friends. He wanted Brasal to be there as well.
He did or you did?
Doesn't matter to me. I think it's actually fine either way. But he seemed particularly insistent that Brasal didn't give him any trouble, so I figured he wanted Brasal present.
No. If that's all he wants, I can assure him Brasal will not give him any trouble. I prefer to meet with him alone.
Just to be absolutely, positively clear, Sodar Tarav is neither nice nor reliable. And
I'm fully aware.
And I'm on the hook for one bad deed now. Do you mind if I join you?
Keep in mind, Rowan Shallow, you put yourself on that hook. But yes, I would assume you were going to be there just as a matter of course, as a somewhat of a go-between.
I'd prefer it. Also, again, I don't like whatever work I have in store, because I don't like Tarav. But I did it because I was under the vague assumption that whatever conversation you're about to have is going to be vital to us in the next 2 nights.
Yes. I mean, let's be clear, I'm not fond of the man either. However, it is probably different reasons that you're not fond of him. I am not fond of him for what I literally handed to him and he didn't pick up. You and the history between you and him, I have no interest in, unless it affects what we're about to do.
Do
Is there something I should know? Is there something I should know about between you and him?
Do you like Salvation still not being presently on fire?
That is the aim, the goal we're all working towards, last I checked.
Are you aware that you're speaking to the devil? That your intention was to meet him in hell before I told you that we made different arrangements?
I do not fear Zorotarov one bit. He and I had reached a detente before I left town. It would do him no good to try to ambush or capture me. I am perfectly aware of who I'm dealing with.
Sure, it might be very difficult for him to double cross you as an individual, to let salvation rot and then just get back to work when it's done. He has no problem just waiting you out in the woods.
Here's the thing, he already had that. We had driven off Karnak, his main competition. I literally handed him the town on a silver platter, and yet he chose not to take it for some reason. I want to know why. And whether it has to do with that monstrosity that got up and decided to walk out of town a few months ago. There are many reasons I need to speak with him, but believe me, I know exactly whom I'm dealing with. But I appreciate the information. If you have any more information about Zorotarov, I would like to know it now, that you're comfortable telling me.
He's a snake of the highest order. He has no problem letting any of his professional relationships lapse via murder. He has on more than one occasion attempted to solve minor disputes between other criminal enterprises that he had brief fallings out with via firebombing. He's not a healthy person to work with on a regular basis. I presume these are things you already know. Again, these things matter to me because salvation is at stake, and you apparently are immortal.
I do not know if I can die. I have not tested it that closely because I have good friends who bring me back from the brink of death. But I can only assume it is possible at some point. As someone who's
seen the brink of death, I'd like most people to just generally avoid it. All the time. It's not fun, you know. Do you enjoy that?
It is not a matter of enjoyment, it is a matter of duty. I do what I must to protect others. All right. How are we to set up the meeting?
Tell me the house you want to have it in. I'll see to it that one of Tarev's men sends a message within the next 40 minutes.
Oh, I don't want to do it. The only house we have is Halar's. And like I said, I'd prefer Halar not to be there. Let's meet, if he's comfortable, let's meet in the tavern then. I'm assuming he can get in there without too much difficulty. We'll hire a room for the purpose of this meeting.
Works just fine for me.
All right. Go set it up and let me know when it's ready, and we'll take care of it. I need to take care of this. And thank you for finding him. I appreciate it.
So there's a moment where, like, completely silently, you notice Rowan just turn back and watch the folks train.
Mm-hmm.
Has the guy who I just stopped mage handing gotten any observably better?
A little bit. No, he has a little bit. The thing that you note is that, although he did bang himself in the face, you notice that he's not as sort of like before. He was kind of going through the motions because he was so bad at it. You definitely get the impression that he's trying. Maybe he's just trying to get to the point where he can be somehow awesome again. And he's, but he's definitely making an effort in a way that he wasn't before.
Okay.
Without turning, just like watching them train, I say, I get that this is a matter of duty. I think that it is for everyone here as well. But you do have to understand. On more than one occasion, people have just walked away from salvation. Just let it burn over and over and over again. If this town falls, they're gonna take that big fortress at the corner of this town and just move on to the next possible target. And our enemy gets to make as many of his men as possible straight out of the dirt. We don't get to do that with
It's a
these
bit
people.
it's a bit more complicated than that, but I take your point. We are not just parts to assemble on a line. That I know takes resources. And tell me, Rowan Shallow, what is your path forward? I trust you are not going to be one of those people who are just going to walk away, correct?
Salvation is my home. Same as I told Tarev, you can't hustle if no one's gonna be available for the hustling. But also, you can't put a soul on a conveyor belt.
Well, your motive may not be the most noble. It is still a motive. I appreciate that.
Everybody has to eat. I don't know blacksmithing. What would you have me do?
And Illyrian looks at you with a very distinct lack of a mouth. Not everyone, but I understand. Go now and make the preparations. The sooner I meet with Zodor, the better off we'll all be, I think.
Indeed. I'd like to stop thinking about that man as quickly as possible. And I head off to the tavern.
Okay.
Okay. Quick note, programming note. When we get to our next session, letting this know for myself and for the party, we are going to have one of the opening conversations is going to be Zodor, and one of the opening conversations is going to be with Nisiana and General Tyresh, if we can make that happen. And because we're going to be finishing with Marame's dream, but I'm going to come to that in a minute. Illyrian, I know you have to do whist. I do want to mention, as Rowan is walking off, though, with the training, I do want to mention that General Tyresh's voice is heard first as you're all talking to each other, and says, "Absolutely ridiculous." And you can see that there's two people behind him. You notice, both Rowan and Illyrian, that there seem to be like some scrapes on his armor, and you think you see a little bit of like what looks like chicken wire or something like hanging off a part of his armor. You don't know what this is all about, but he seems to be in a foul mood, and he's yelling at everyone, saying, "I was very clear in ordering these troops to be trained in using clubs because there weren't enough spears to go around. If we do this way, they're going to find themselves weaponless and useless. Who am I working with here?" And he kind of throws up his arms and marches off again. And the grizzled old man and like are all sort of like staring after him as they're holding their, sticks, not spears anyway, just sort of these training baton things as he walks sort of down the alleyway and away, down the street.
Okay, so the general's leaving.
Yes, yeah. He just
Excellent.
literally came in for 2 seconds and then turned around and was
Yeah,
like, blah, blah,
all
blah,
right.
blah, 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 blah.
I just need 5 minutes here.
Okay.
So I float over.
As
to the
I'm
car.
walking away, though, just very quickly,
Yeah.
I call out to the trainer and go, "If you have crossbows, I have an idea," but I keep walking before you can stop me.
And he's like, and he kind of stares at you and a couple people. The one actually who you were helping with the mage hand, who clearly didn't know you were doing that, is kind of like kind of nudges his companion next to him with an elbow, like, "Oh, you see, and a couple of them kind of grin. And then when the grizzled man sort of swivels around, they're kind of like, like immediately back to like, straight, rigid military. Okay, yes, Illyrian.
So I actually go up to him. I don't salute him because I'm not in the army, but I do nod respectfully. As you know, Sergeant, myself and my associates have been tasked with assisting with the defense of the village of Salvation. And so they're all armed with long sticks,
Yeah, kind of sticks that look like they're maybe stand-ins for spears. They're definitely not spears.
So, would you would you tell me what your planned defense is?
And so
by the way, how many men are here?
Probably maybe 30 or so, if you had to guess. Probably about a few dozen.
Am I assuming this is the militia?
Yeah, basically. They are not. They have Brailish outfits, but they look very much like Brailish privates that have been, because a lot of the outfits don't fit you like particularly well. So you get the impression they've been kind of hurriedly handed out to people.
Very ragtag kind of thing.
Yeah.
What size are you? 1. Yes, that's it. Okay.
Say, small or large,
Or
thing,
pretty
yeah.
much, if
Yeah.
you're lucky. Yeah.
right.
So, all right. So I'll then kind of have him inform me as to what the plan is for these.
And so he tells you basically the details. From what you can tell, and by the way, he makes clear, although he doesn't say this exactly as sort of a insubordinate way, but there was never any such order given about clubs or spears or anything else. That order was never given. But he describes the idea of because Warforged are so dangerous up close, that he feels the best option is to try to keep them at somewhat of a distance. There's not enough time to train these people to be good enough with ranged weapons, but if they've got spears, it's a matter of being able to keep them away from direct close combat and slow everyone down, and allow maybe the army members, the more trained ones, to come in with melee weapons. So that's the theory as far as he has it. So he's doing a lot of like the, thrust, back, spin, very much sequence chat from season 1 of The Mandalorian, where they're trying to defend the village, what's it called? Sanctuary, that episode where they're all, which is basically taken from the Seven Samurai. That's, what I want you to imagine, training them in the villages. So.
Okay. And Alarian nods, because although this is difficult to parse, but the tactic is sound. They're absolutely correct. The sergeant's absolutely correct. All right. If you would allow me to assist you, I think we may be able to give them some more practical usage. Does that sound amenable?
And he kind of nods. All right. I guess you could see what you can do.
All right. So then they turn to the group, who are probably still doing their drills, and calls out, "Attention!" loud enough in the kind of the parade sergeant voice kind of deal.
And they're all like, they basically do come to attention.
Turn around to probably a fairly ragged attention, but it's good enough.
Yeah.
All right. And
it's
Alarian starts attention-ish. Yeah. Well, it's militia. I understand. And Alarian starts floating up and down along the first row. Gentlemen, first of all, thank you for your volunteering for the militia and to defend salvation. Your attention to duty is appreciated. Bluntly, Warforged, like myself, are what you're going to be facing in the field. I want to give you an actual feel for what it's like to go up against one of us. You are not going, for the next hour, you're not going to be doing drills against stationary targets. You're going to be doing drills against myself. I will defend myself. We will attack. We will do small group tactics on the sergeant's direction to figure out how to neutralize the Warforged with hopefully while minimizing injuries to yourselves. Follow what we're about to teach you in the next hour, and there's a good chance you might come out of the end of this battle alive. With that, I want 30, 10, I want 9 groups of 4, or no, let's see, 30, no, it's going to be 8 groups of 4 times 28. All you with a spear, 2 with spears, 2 with melee weapons. And let's form up right now, and let's start going through it. And he's going to take them through a couple of them, if they have the time, a couple of tactics that a group can take on a Warforged and hopefully neutralize it enough for them to get in and actually injure it.
So I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to give you a chance to redo that persuasion check that Rowan tried. I'm going to give this to you at disadvantage, though, because you have already, there's already been a check made. But in essence, I'm giving you a separate opportunity here.
I will inspire Alarian, so it's a straight roll.
Ah, very nice, very nice. So now it is just neutral.
Yep. This is a skill check, right?
Yes, this is actually, you can choose this to be, it's not deception, either persuasion or intimidation, Alarian.
Both of them suck for me. I don't have a good one.
Just roll high.
But I'd rather do persuasion. And I may call. Wait, can I use a hero point at a skill check?
You can use a hero point at a skill check.
All right.
Trying to think if I can. I don't think I can. I can't double inspire you out of it though. Tren has already inspired you to get you to neutral.
Right. No. I assume neutral is probably enough. It's gonna have to be the straight roll. I'm just gonna have to hope it's good enough. Both of them. It's both. My persuasion there both suck. It is what it is though. So here we go.
Perfect.
Yeah. Delightful. I would get if I maxed out my hero point, I'd get to 10, and I'd have to roll a 6.
Yeah.
For those of you at home, that was a 5.
I can get a 5 or a 6. I guess I'm going to blow the hero point and see what happens.
Okay.
Because I got at least a chance to do it, I suppose.
Okay.
I'm just going to roll a d6 here and see. I hope I get lucky to at least get a 10 to get him back to neutral as best I can do. Hey, it's a 6. That makes it 11.
Okay. It seems to you, you can't tell whether you've had like a huge effect on them, and I've marked off the hero point. You can't tell if you've had a huge effect on them, but it definitely is the case that they are, how do I put it, more focused, I think might be a good way to put it. They're definitely more focused than they were, and it may be a combination of sort of the jokingness of Rowan followed up by the more, like, all right, people, I'm here with you and blah, 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 like all that sort of thing that you've added to it. And certainly it will help them in some way that they've trained with you. Whether this is going to be something which has brought them back to kind of neutral or whether it's a fail, that's something you're not going to know until the combat itself. You'll have to do the best you can.
All right. Well, had to try. I hope my hero point giving up doesn't screw me later.
It was worth doing, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I am going to make an executive decision to hold on to the conversation with Whist. We can begin with that next time, John. But I want to get to Marame's dream. And Nisa,
I'm fine with that.
So again, for the order, we will have the Whist convo first. Then Nisian, I'm going to want you to do the convo with the general. And then the last thing, assuming you can do it, we'll try. And then the last thing will be the Alarian, Rowan, Zodor convo before the big battle is what we're looking at. So,
just Arv, let you know, I need to. Sorry to do this, but I need to squeeze in one more conversation because I need to go see Barra after everything's done and before the battle. I need to talk to Barra.
Have to be RP'd? Because
kind of important. I mean, you and I can do it as a side if you want. If you do it before the battle, but it's kind of important.
Okay, as long as we don't spend too long on it, and I'm not trying to push anything out of it. It's just that we have a number of
it'll
actually be
it'll be fairly brief. I won't need much time. There's only 2 things I need from her, and I can keep it short.
Okay, that's fine.
Tell me about your life story. No.
That's fine. You can remind me that next time. So that's fine.
Yep.
Marame, I want to come to you. So this is the evening where most of these things are going to be taking place. But I want to ask, what in your dream, how are you approaching it? What are you doing to try to gather the information that you wish?
Well, from my experience with the dreams and my training, I know that there's several entry points to it. One of them was if I meet another Kalishtar, like my mentor, who can help guide me.
Right.
I don't mind reaching out to her, although I'm not sure she'll help me. Aside from that, I almost feel like I'm going to feed my dreams kind of like I would feed the Oracle of War. And regardless of whether I meet her or if I don't, then hopefully the dreams themselves will shape and give me some kind of insight with everything that I know, what I know of the battlefield, what I know that's upcoming. And I'm hoping that I'm able to get any type of insight on the Lord of Blades, on what they're planning. So that's what I'm kind of gonna go to sleep with, kind of focusing on all of that.
Let me have you make a wisdom check for me, please. This one you can do at advantage.
Thank you. I love advantage. Okay, let me find my character sheet. Okay, so advantage, wisdom. My black dice, 15.
Okay. So you cast your mind outwards then, in an effort to kind of get a sense of the Lord of Blades, but also to possibly reach out to your mentor. Your dreams tonight feel unsettled, Marame. There is what almost feels like I would describe it as trying to listen to a radio broadcast with a lot of static. There's your dream as you're having it has this kind of almost like there's something you keep seeing out of the corner of your eye, and you kind of turn over to see it, and it's always like not quite there. It's not visible when you see it. You see these flashes of color, and there's this constant sort of low uncomfortable pulsating hum that keeps sort of coming up again and again and again. And so, your dreams are not settled as you're kind of like processing it. But as you cast your mind out to Sorashana and to, for example, as your mentor, you don't see her, but you do see a couple of other things. First, you see at one point you are walking along in a small kind of forest clearing, and there is a kind of stream that cuts through it. The stream is exceedingly blue, and as you're following along with the dream, or the stream, I should say, and the stream kind of traces its way through the clearing. And then you see the stream becomes brackish and shallow and kind of narrows and becomes halting. And whereas before it was this bright blue, it becomes more and more difficult to follow until eventually the stream has just become this kind of yellowish, sulfurish smelling swamp, almost land, that the stream has become. And the blueness of the stream has now ended up as this kind of sickly green, and as you kind of bend in to look a little bit closer, almost rainbow in color. In fact, it reminds you a little bit of this undulating rainbow mist that you can see. You can certainly interact with, if you want, with it. This is the first thing that you see in your vision.
I want to try to, I mean, it's vision, so I feel a little bit safer, but I want to try to touch that rainbow murkiness.
When you reach out to touch it, it recedes from you. You sort of reach towards it and it kind of sort of recedes back, and you hear this very odd, to jump out of game, well, no, this would actually technologically be inside the game too, as if you were playing a record player backwards. As you're reaching towards it. And then when you reach back again, it kind of speaks again, this gobbledygook.
Okay. And I can't, I mean, I'm in a dream, but I can't feel anything with my mind. Like there is no other dimension that I can pierce.
No, although the unsettledness is deep, Marimé. It's almost soul covering.
Okay.
The
A bit
second,
like I felt at the wall. Okay.
yes,
Sorry.
yes, no, it's okay. And as you're kind of seeing that, you hear something from behind you, and as you look, you see Rowan kind of looking up, and suddenly, like on one side of the glade, it's as if you're looking into it almost looks like you're looking into a box, but then you realize you're actually looking into Salvation's streets, a part of Salvation you don't think you've been to, or at least don't remember much about it. And you can see Rowan kind of at one end of the alley looking at these four figures who are whispering to each other. And they're whispering, and you can hear them whispering, but you can't hear what they're whispering, at least not from where you are. Rowan seems to be listening too. His back is turned to you.
I mean, it's a dream, but can I make myself stealthy and invisible and kind of a shadow in my own dream and try to skirt in so that I can get a better idea of what's happening without being a part of it?
I would say so. Do you want to cut in front of Rowan to do this or not?
I want to walk beside Rowan, but I don't want to cut in front of him.
Okay.
I want to look at his face. I want to see what his expression is, so that when I know what they're talking about, I kind of have an idea of his position in it.
Okay. His expression, I would say, is listening, as if curious.
Okay.
And as you get close, you can hear them whispering to each other. And I am going to have you make a perception check here. This I'm going to leave. I would normally give you advantage about this, but because of the nature of this, basically I'm balancing out advantage and disadvantage. So this is just a neutral roll that we're going to do
That's
here.
fair. Okay, let's see how perceptive Dream Mermaid is. 14.
14. You hear one of them say, the tallest one, a blonde-haired man, you know what the deal's going to be. We've only got one chance to get this right, and it's got to be done properly. If it's not, you know it's going to be all of us for the gallows next. And you hear a couple of other things below. You can't quite make out. Some of them are like something about sure and maybe and what do you think, and then the tall one who seems to be the leader, the blonde-haired one, responds with, "He's going to get what's coming to him. It's as simple as that. And you know this is the only thing we can do." And there's a lot of and then, "You all knew what you were risking when you agreed to be here. You're going to have to make this happen now. You know what happens if we're wrong, and if we fail." And so there's this more like whispering, blah, blah, blah. And then all four of them turn as if they're staring directly at you. And as they do that, Rowan also turns to stare at you for a minute. And Rowan is sort of like, looking up at you sort of, not in recognition. He doesn't seem to be angry. He's just sort of staring at you, also curious. But the four others at the alleyway, at the edge of the alleyway, are staring at you with, like, definite anger, right? Like, what are you doing here type of thing, right? And they kind of just are glaring right at you. So, last thing you see as they're staring at you is suddenly the whole place goes white. And you find that you are now standing inside the gray. And although you can see nothing, you hear a horribly powerful rumbling noise. Some massive something coming towards you through the gray, Merime.
Okay, it's something like the giant Citadel ship that we...
Maybe.
Okay. Do I have an idea of where I am in the gray?
No.
Or just...
Everything is featureless. You're definitely not near salvation. Or at least you can't see salvation, I should say.
Right, I'm in the gray, so... Okay. Is it moving, the sound?
Yes.
It's coming towards me, you
Yes.
said.
Yes.
Okay.
Getting louder.
Okay. I'm going to stay and see if I can see what it is.
You watch, and as this sound, and it begins to rumble so much that you can almost like feel your, the ground shifting below you. And then you see something metal emerge from the gray. And at first you think, is this the Argonth, like the Flying Fortress? Mm-hmm. And then you're like, or is this the Conclave? Right. But as you look, you can see that it actually is a massive foot, a boot, that stamps on the ground. And as you look up, you can see this colossal figure that is stomping through the gray. And hanging on to every part of this thing are Warforged. There must be hundreds of them at every part, hanging off the legs and off the feet, all of them with blades, all of them with red lit eyes staring, hanging off on, not like hanging on like comically, but like onto hooks, as if they're like, hanging on with one hand with their weapons ready with the other hand, as this creature is coming towards you. And as the creature comes towards you, Mary, do you want to move out of its way? Or stay?
I'm going to stay. I'm going to try not to get crushed, of course, but I want to see it. Is it a Colossus? Is it like, I've seen one of them collapse now in Salvation. I need to get as much as I can. And as far as I know, Kalashtar cannot get killed in their dreams, as far as I know.
It does look like, that's where you're, no, I'm just kidding. It does indeed look like a creature that you've seen, a Colossus that you've seen. And as the foot comes up, you see it sort of comes up and then it bends down. It sort of stops right in front of you. and then bends down all the way. And as you look up, fascinated, its head bends into view, and it is indeed the head of the Colossus that allegedly got up and walked out of Salvation a couple of months before, the one that you had gone below the level of when you had come to the town in the first place. And it stares at you angrily, its face sort of contorted. This is not the way a Colossus face works, by the way, but this is sort of some weird distortion of your dream, and it stares at you. And then it reaches a hand towards you. And just before the hand reaches you, you awake. At the same time, Rowan, some distance away, you feel something sort of sweat almost kind of bead on your skin suddenly. And you thought you felt a rumbling below your feet for just a moment. And then it disappears. And that's where we're going to bring our session to a close.
Oh, gee.
It'll be fine.
It's just a dream, right?
It's just a dream.
Just a dream.
Just
It's
a
fine.
dream. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No problem.
You're going to wake up, Patrick Duffy's going to get out of the shower.
Or
Exactly.
it's all good.
Yeah, so we have a
those are
couple
really far
conversations,
reach.
but it will set up well for the convos will happen followed by the assault. So it should be a good active session next session. Exactly, Prince Justin. It's either real or it's a dream. There's nothing that is in between. And welcome, by the way, to Prince Justin and also to Cajoling Lace, who came in here. Was enjoying that as you came in. Good stuff, everybody. A lot of sort of, I know this felt like a lot of setup, but it was all setup that I think all of you individually needed to do, both mechanically and otherwise, with some great assistance from Lord Bucket, who, you know, can we say a positive note for General Tyresh?
No.
Yeah, no, not in the least. I'm going to start with John on the bottom right of the ziggurat with Ilarion. Obviously, some good stuff there with Ilarion, both in terms of the training, but also the conversation with Nisiana. And I was interested, actually, I'm going to talk to Jen about that in just a moment, but it was interesting to me that Ilarion, I really am starting to see, this is not how I intended it, but the top two people in the ziggurat here, Nisiana and Merime, have a very sort of distinct approach to how they're doing this, whereas very clearly Tantan and Ilarion, and to a lesser extent Rowan, sort of have their own views about the way things ought to proceed in terms of, for example, how we handle this incompetent general guy. And
Continent.
Yes, sorry, incontinent. Very important to note that difference. And so that was interesting to me. Not that there's a rift per se, but more that there's a strong difference of opinion between the way that these things actually ought to operate. And so, Ilarion, I think I don't know that you completely solved all the problems that Nisiana may have, but sort of at least temporarily quieted them. There is definitely some unsettled feelings about Zodor. You've obviously did figure out stuff with Mother Johanna, but you know, there's still the question about how fragile she is and how weak everybody is. Now Salvation has kind of been through it, and they're just like, I can't take any more fights, you know, that type of thing. So there's a lot, it feels to me, that is going to come home to roost that Ilarion's going to have to deal with from their perspective, not to mention everybody else. So how did you feel about today's session, and where will the fine folks find you next?
Yeah, pretty fraught, finding out that Salvation is, well, it's always kind of been on a knife's edge, but now it's like not only on a knife's edge, but it's on the tip of the knife.
Yeah.
And there's a multitude of directions it could fall.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the best thing.
That's right.
Oh, but it's the worst thing.
The
like
best
I said,
thing. It's the best story thing. It's the best story
worst
thing.
decision we've done. Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, and to be fair, Ilarion's getting frustrated at certain things that are happening. That, you know, Mother Telskindros thinks she has to burn herself out in doing these things. That Zodor frickin' let the opportunity that they left him slip through his fingers. Actually, they're very upset about that. That's gonna be another conversation.
Or had it taken from him. You don't know yet.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have a talk about that, aren't we? Next session. Possibly, but by who? Anyways, that's another time. And got to talk to Wist about things, and it's very important that they talk to Barra. But that won't take that again. Both those conversations will not take long. I don't.
Okay.
This went great. Yes, a little disappointed that the training did not go fantastically. By the way, this is day one. We have 2 days. I want to be very clear about that. We have all of tomorrow to still do stuff before the attack actually happens.
We hope.
We hope.
Unless the DM is taking time away from us.
It wouldn't be the DM doing it. Just to be clear.
Sure, it wouldn't. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Of course, attacking early would be, yes, that would make a lot of sense. Yeah, there's still bits and pieces that need to be put together, like this whole thing about what this possible plot is, which is not great. Especially if they happen to frame members of the King Citadel for it, like, oh, then our members like, you did it, like, no, we didn't. We had nothing to do with it. It'll be interesting to see the next session and how this turns out. But there's a lot still to put together. We are nowhere near ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, not even close. And there's a lot to still do to try and get us ready. And the sad part is it may be all for naught anyways, especially if the Colossus is here. Then we are, yeah. So that's going to be interesting. May not get much rest tonight. So maybe working into the evening. But we'll see. But as usual, a blast to roleplay with everyone in ARV. Thanks for taking time from your trip to do this. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And yeah, on to the 22nd. Part 2
Pleasure.
of. And yeah, on to the desperate defense of salvation.
And when will the folks see you next besides here? I guess
Gen Con, actually. I'm there from the Sunday before to the Monday after. So this is one of Catalyst's this is actually Catalyst's flagship show. We will be there in force. We will be there with lots of stuff since we're not really at Origins for several reasons. So looking forward to seeing everyone, most people in this group except for Trend, unfortunately. I think everyone's going to be there. So that'll be awesome. Anyone who's going to be showing up, pop by the Catalyst booth. I don't know where it is, but trust me, you'll see us on the floor. Won't be a problem. Stop by and say hello. Check out what we got. It's should be fun. So that is where. But until the 22nd, and then early August, that's where I'll be.
Good stuff, John. Always a pleasure. Good work tonight. Jen, Nisiana, again, also had a chance to do some interesting conversations that we had, obviously, talking with Ilarion. And again, we've been talking about this, but the line of people that Nisiana has to talk to kind of make sure everything is sort of squared away is interesting. And it is interesting for Ilarion because, of course, Nisiana has great respect for Ilarion, but was definitely shaken, as you mentioned, by what she saw as Ilarion's kind of mistakes in this last set of conversations, and the strain that everyone has been placed under is an issue there. And then, of course, being somewhat challenged a little bit in terms of what House Jarasco's reputation outside of Sharn, which is not necessarily all like positive and sunshine and light. There are other religions that kind of view it as, pay to play type of thing, and that they're not necessarily fans of how that works. So there's that. And of course, on your mind is going to be this conversation with the general, but that's something that's going to be there. But even without that, all of sort of figuring out stuff in terms of what Larian is about and setting up for what is to come in terms of the trauma ward, I thought was interesting today. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I think I've come to an understanding with between Ilarion and Nisiana. She just was just like gonna make sure, because he's much older than she is. He's much more experienced than she is. She understands she has a certain naivety, but she also understands that you have to draw the line in the sand and you have to stand behind it. And those who don't fall, because she's seen it happen before. There was one other thing I wanted to do. I wanted to see if we could find the tunnels where the Colossus were. I think trying to get Sky Blue to do that would be the best bet.
Okay.
Because I don't think I'm going to have time to do it.
Okay.
Besides, keeping her busy will keep her out of trouble, I hope. She's a teenager. It's a thing. Interesting to me is Mia Tanton. She does not realize just how pragmatic he is at this point. So I'm wondering what will happen if she sees that actually happen, because the conversation he had with her sister, she wasn't there for. So there's out of character, Nisiana's way more interested and concerned with Mia Tanton. In character, she's like, okay, I've got to make sure Ilarion, who is the de facto head of this group, stays behind that line, because that's not acceptable. And things are too important to be able to walk away, which is, it's very, very weird, this position where she's just like, I don't want to be with someone who would just flat out murder somebody. So That is where she is, and I am very concerned about Marimay's dream right now. Not that she knows it yet, but she will. I think. I don't know. We'll see if Marimay will tell her about it.
I think Marimay's gonna share pretty fast. Oh God!
Funny thing happened in my dream.
Yeah.
There, that.
So bad.
Yeah. Especially this whole idea that there's a plot within Tyrell's men. But what is the plot, and who is doing what, and it's a supposition.
Yep.
I am interested in what happens, and I'm hoping I don't get caught up in the middle of the plot by going to see the general. But you know what? Shit happens.
Ah,
Boy, does it.
I see what you did there. Yeah.
Yeah, come on, it was right there.
Yeah, it was a
I had
softball.
to.
It was a softball.
gross. Oh, yeah.
And I will be here on the 22nd, and I'll be at Gen Con. I'm going to be arriving a little early, staying a little late. I usually have a lot of writerly business meetings. So I'm doing the writer symposium and doing some workshops, and I'm doing signings. And I'm going to be very happy to see all those who will be there and have conversations and drinks and, just face to face. It's always very nice. I miss that.
Yeah.
So.
It's going to be good stuff. I'm excited for it, and thank you, Jen. Good work today, and I will see you on the 22nd. If I can, I'll hopefully see you before that, since we're both out in the Northwest. But we'll see.
I hope so.
I hope
really
so.
want
I'm
to
gonna
show you my house.
I know. I want to see it. I'm really
and
hoping
my
so.
kitties.
Yes. No. Yes. So I'm with you. I'm hoping so as well. I will do my best. But always a pleasure. Thank you, Jen. Moving right down to the bottom of the ziggurat. Well, we had someone who was in particular quite busy today, and that was we had a lot of stuff going on with Rowan. Not only with the whole Zodor Tarev thing, and Zodor being like, "Guess what? You're working for me." Not exactly, but kind of providing some information that maybe Rowan wasn't so crazy about like, "Hey, guess what? The person you thought you were clear from, I've got rumors that maybe they haven't." So there's that. And then Rowan's thing with the mage hand and the training I thought was really interesting. Plus, in addition to that, Rowan also hearing this potential whatever it was, hi Dragon, this potential whatever it was thing, and then having that somehow be associated in some connection with Marimay's dream. There was a bunch of stuff happening with Rowan today, and I was interested to see all of the navigating of that as Rowan went through it. As usual, Rowan's got to dance, got to improv with the dance that's provided. Also had, I think, the best line, which was, you've got a poet, when you come up with a line, can't put your soul on a conveyor belt. I was like, that's some good stuff right there. Brandon, how'd you feel about today? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I really liked this session. There was a point at which I was like, why does this feel short? We're having fun. I want to keep doing the thing. How long have we been playing? We've been playing for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, because this is really cool. I like that we got to interact with Zodor Tarev again. I want to see where that keeps going. Because I really like the fact that I am simultaneously in a group of in a party full of people who are risking their lives on a regular basis for things I do not understand and kind of don't want to get involved in. And then on the side, I'm like, let's just put my neck out in this obviously tense situation that doesn't even benefit me because I'm the only person who knows how to interact with this obvious crook. And I want to see where I want to see that tension keep playing out in this way because I think that would be really cool. So I'm very intrigued to see what happens next. This was I really liked all of the RP that we did here. I want to see how Rowan and Illyrian's relationship continues to develop when this keeps going south because that's gonna be fun. But Salvation has to survive before that happens.
It's true.
So I guess night of the first day, one day remains. before we see whether salvation just crumbles to the ground and we just move settings. But yeah, I'm very excited for the next session. Please do not kill us, Greg. Um,
I am simply reporting what occurs, my friend. Just
the
reporting
last
what
time we were
occurs.
a reminder that several sessions ago was the last time we were in a room full of more than 10 Warforged, and we didn't fight any of we fled.
Right, you fled.
Well,
So
Can't
keep in
flee
mind-
this time unless
keep
you
in
want to
mind,
leave.
we also took out the leader. We did take out the
yeah,
leader.
we
which
took
is kind
out
of
the
a big
leader
deal.
because we absolutely had to, but we didn't land the killing blow though. He went, "Oh, I'm about to die. Time to press this big red button," and then we ran.
Yeah, exactly. True.
So if we have to get in a fight, this is gonna be tense.
They
So yeah,
don't
I'm very
suck.
excited to. I'm very excited to see 3/4 of Salvation get decimated. So that's very fun.
No.
As for me, you can find me everywhere on the internet except apparently the one place on the internet that was crumbling all of today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I heard.
But you can find me almost everywhere on the internet at The Rising Tides. That's TITHES. Somewhere a bell is ringing. I have a newsletter at brandonobrien.xyz, which if you want to keep following up with writers, please follow their newsletters. There will come a point in time when the internet will burn down, just like Salvation will. And you will need to follow them wherever they are actually doing the thing. So please do the thing. The next place you will see me is here, again, tomorrow night. The Strange Friends will be having a special episode of Speculate, where we just sit and chat about the stuff that we've already done, about the crossover between RP and writing and the work that we're already doing, about our last 2 sessions, and more. So if you have any questions for these Strange Friends, please feel free to ask those questions tomorrow for our Speculate session. I do a lot of other things on this channel. At some point we're going to have a session of Valorwood very, very soon. I can't remember the date at the moment. But yeah, other than that, you will get to see me in person with some but not all of the cool people in this present Zoom call at Gen Con. So if you're coming to Gen Con, please say hello. We will be doing lots of cool things. I am going to be doing a panel about speculative poetry in RPGs with Brian Tawara, and I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
That's going to be rad. So if you're coming to Gen Con, I hope to see you. And if you're not coming to Gen Con, you still have like 29 days to change your mind. So change your mind.
Maybe you should now come to it. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, really, Prince Justin? Yeah, I'm. Brian actually does a lot of stuff for my classes as well, so I'm a big fan, and I'm really glad that we can get Brian out here this time. So it'll be great. That'll be a great panel too. So always a pleasure. Great stuff, Brandon. And yeah, it should be mentioned. Speculate, by the way, now also a Minnesota Webfest selection. So we are now we won Best Visuals at Rainbow Roll. We are also a Minnesota Webfest selection, and of course the New Jersey Webfest selection that we already were. So Speculate's on a bit of a rainbow roll, if you will. So it's good stuff. And Brandon is a big part of that, along with Mike Underwood and myself. So thank you, Brandon. Good stuff tonight, and we will speak to Brandon soon. Of course, also Gray Shade Designer, I should mention too. Moving right up to Marie. Marie, a lot of stuff that we got from Merime. First of all, critically important thing to prevent things from going south very badly with the whole, the general accidentally triggers, the trap, and then Tanton's just like, excellent, This whole thing was going to go south quickly if Merime was not on the scene to diffuse it somewhat. And so that was really important. And then, of course, also, we had Merime sort of becoming more in tune with what was going on with that weird hallucinogenic, roiling mist, which had both an effect talking to Tanton about what the impact of that might be, but then also because of Merime's Kalashtar roots and what that might be as a result of that. So that when we went into the dream, obviously that's a big sort of set piece, like, oh my God, what does this mean in terms of what the dreams are? And it's very important that she's using, this Kalashtar knowledge to get to what she needs to get to, even though the visions are clearly being interfered with on some level by, this white noise static thing that she's got with the gray just outside of Salvation. So and more things to think about in terms of what are the implications of everything I've just seen. How did you feel about today's session, Marie? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I had a lot of fun. One of the things that I really like about Mérimée is when she tries to do convincing or persuasion or anything like that. If there's a lower roll, to me, like if she'd have rolled poorly today, it would have been like, well, she's busy, like she's busy laughing because she can't keep a straight face because this whole situation is just killing her, right?
Yeah.
But she rolled well enough, so she got away with it. But that's always so it's always kind of the fun that the rolls determine how she's reacting to things. I loved the conversation with with Tenton as well. That was a lot of fun where, he uses his mind for logic and deduction, and Mirimi uses her mind, but to reach out and feel and scope and,
Right.
insight. So it's like they've got these two different ways, not opposing, but very different ways of looking at things. So it was a lot of fun to get that conversation.
Does Mérimée have doubts about Tanton, by the way that Nisiana maybe does, or not?
No, she doesn't. Tendon to her is fairly straightforward. He's a fixer and he needs to fix things. And sometimes, rarely, but sometimes he'll notice things in people that need fixing. And
Okay.
part of his tool set is to, get rid of a piece of machinery that doesn't work. And the same seems to apply to people. So
Gotcha.
that's just a little piece of
Not
information
my
that
theme.
Mary smiled. Sorry, Jen? Yeah.
Pardon me.
No.
No, I think it was something that Jen said.
Oh.
I just said it was not the same. The genes and people are not the
okay.
same.
I mean, Mary filed it away. She's seen worse than wars. Overall, he's stand up, and she is with these people. So to the best that she can, she will trust their judgment, and then we will deal with whatever downfall that may be. But she might keep a bit of a closer eye on him when it comes to that. But
Okay.
at the end of the day, if he chooses to do something, we don't know. I don't know. It depends how it goes down. I suppose how Mirimi will react. Um, but I mean, when you consider how dangerous the general is, it. But her sister said that she would go and talk to him and maybe try to heal him, make him feel better, and she trusts that her sister, if anybody can accomplish that, it's her. So she's willing to wait that out. And yeah, a lot of fun. I'm looking for that dream was something else. I like that Mirimi is at the point now where she wants to touch into her Kalashtar heritage.
Right.
So that's interesting. So thank you for that big scary vision with a lot to think about. I took lots of notes. She'll think about it. She'll be ready. And so thank you to everyone too. It was fun to see everyone RP as always. Next, you can find me online. I'm a little bit here and there. I'm a little bit lazy with I'm just lazy with social media. Where I'm most active is very old school. It's on my Facebook page. So I'm very old school there. So that's where I'm most active right now. And aside from that, I will be at Gen Con. I will also be hanging out there doing some panels, doing some workshops, having some fun. So come hang out. We're going to laugh. That is an order. I'm going to go up with my new car. I'm going to drive 2 days to get there with some friends. It's going to be amazing. And yeah, and that's it. I think that's all I have coming up in CanCon in October, but that's not for a little while yet, where Greg will also be.
Very excited for that too. Absolutely. Thank you, Marie. Great stuff today as always. Last but certainly not least, Tren, Tanton as well. I'm very interested in what will be these sort of Tanton discussing things with people about did like Nisiana's point about compassion and the whole thing where you're just like, good luck with that. That was kind of funny. And of course, Tanton also has not just the traps to set up. I love the very specific description of how the trap is going to work, by the way, but also this theory about teleportation, about whether the general himself maybe is been somehow changed and altered and sent back, and now he's a risk to everybody else, and the fact that you just out and said like this guy's an idiot and is going to do all these things. There was a lot going on there to kind of give us a sort of insight into Tanton at the same time that Tanton was, quote, doing his job, fixing the traps, getting that all set and squared away. But still, we're getting some more insight into Tanton's character in the process of doing that. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
First of all, I wish we had realized sooner why he was called Lord Bucket, because I think that this whole section would be beautiful if we could get sponsored by Imodium. I think that would just be
Brought to you by Pepto-Bismol.
exactly.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, no, we didn't know until now, or whatever. So, yeah, there was a point. In fact, if Mary May had not swept in, Tangent was very close to reaching for his crossbow to say, well, it's sick and wounded. We might as well put it down, and just put a crossbow bolt through his mouth,
Yep.
just to shut him up. And just, I mean, Tangent was a hair's breadth. If he had actually taken these guys, been like, take these people to jail, Tangent would have just started walking with them. They'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
if you're gonna take my workforce away, fuck the hell out of you. You can't have me either.
Right.
Because I mean, if I'm gonna walk up to jail with them, what are you gonna do? Throw me in jail? That's exactly what I'm doing. Mwah, mwah,
Yeah.
mwah. He's much like, who was my druid?
Fifely.
Hates people like this. He just, I mean, in part because Tanton believes that a lot of people are more stupid than he is, and this guy definitely. And if he had been present for Barra saying that she knows how he got where he is, that would,
Yeah.
this would be a very different situation if this dude showed up and stepped in his trap. But Tanton is delighted that the general stepped in the trap. It's like, damn that armor. I just need to do something. It's like, just cast Mage Hand, grab the bucket from the aid, and just pour it on top of him. Something while he's all bound up in. Just, I'm not like literally, because but anyway, yeah, right. So I will be playing Tangent. No, we already covered that. Where will people see me next? I don't know. Hear that. A week from today, I'm going to be recording on the Bungle Tech BattleTech podcast. I don't know when the episode's going to go live, probably the following week. But I've been talking to those guys like for a couple of months now, trying to, plan exactly when we're going to do this. And they're like, okay, it's going to be this. I'm like, okay, good, fine. So they just sent me the questions they were going to be asking me today. And I'm like, ooh, these are good.
Okay.
These are very good. These are going to be fun. So yeah, basically just follow me on, well, let's see. I would normally say Twitter, but, that's a hulking pile of general right now. Hulking pile of Lord Bucket. I can't remember his name. It's Lord Bucket. I don't care.
General Tyresh is the other.
I don't care. I really don't care. It's just Tanton may actually make. We had in Deep Space Nine. They had an episode where they were looking for self-sealing stem bolts.
Mm-hmm.
Tanton may have to make one of those for this guy. Anyway, yeah. No. But aside from that, back here again for this, I think, or the other one.
Probably Shire Adventures, I think, is a little before this one, or I believe. But yes, for both of those, definitely. And thank you, Tren. And again, INB crew, as always, great work tonight. I am excited for what happens next. And yeah, we are leading up to what's going to be a pretty big epic, which really will close out. I have to double check. It either closes out season 3 or comes close to that when we get through with the Lord Bucket Adventures. So just about halfway through the campaign.
Dear God, I would think it would close out season 3 with an epic battle.
Yeah.
This is going to be an epic battle.
It's been quite a season. It has been quite a season. But great stuff. Chat, can we get some love for the amazing INB players? Thank you for putting up with my mobile setup, which worked fine as long as my internet didn't collapse. But thank you, everybody. Great stuff, as always. Wonderful stuff from Trent Sparks, from Marie Bilodeau, from Brandon O'Brien, from Jennifer Brozek, and from John Helfers. Great work, everybody, and we will see you back here soon. Bye for now, he said.
Good night, everybody.
Bye for now. All right. And that, folks, is going to do it for me for today. And it's going to do it for me for at least a week. Now, we are going to have The Strange Friends are going to be back, as was heard, talking about Speculate-related stuff tomorrow. So I'm going to make sure that I change that so that that is reflected. We're going to have that going on. I'm very excited to check that out later. I probably won't be able to check it out tomorrow, but being able to check it out later and kind of see what, in fact, the discussions are about as the Strange Friends talk about their Speculate work. So that's going to be happening tomorrow night. And after that, we are going to be not have anything going on here until Friday at the earliest, because Tuesday, July 4th, I'm not going to have any streams. I'm going to be off that day, still out here in the Pacific Northwest, hanging out with family. I'll be flying back on Friday, July 7th. There is an off chance that we might be able to do a stream on that day, but it really depends on how I'm feeling and how late the plane gets in and all that stuff. So absolutely no promises about Friday the 7th, but I will be back definitely on Saturday, July 8th. What time Sunday? I believe is going to be 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern. I will have to check and see because this was just arranged, I believe, with them recently. And actually, while I'm on that subject, let me see. This Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, they're going to be having this out-of-character session talking about Strange Friends stuff. And I'm going to make the adjustment on the calendar and all that kind of stuff as we go through. So, otherwise, if you like what you saw and heard today, I hope you will follow the channel. I hope you will check out our YouTube at !ArvTube, Discord at !ArvCord, Twitter !ArvTweets, website arvanelleron.com, financially !ArvShop, which is the merchandise area. Yeah, that's right, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, exactly. !Arvtreon for the Patreon. On the publishing stuff, !Icarus for my graphic novel from Athos Arts. !Library for my Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library, my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment. And Greyshade, which is my novel that came out from Athos Arts last year. Recently won an IBPA Silver Medal in Science Fiction and Fantasy. That book is available now. You can also pre-order Renegade, which is out later this month. You can also pre-order Heretic, which is out next year. And you can also pre-order the tabletop role-playing game from Alligator Alley of Greyshade, being designed by one Brendan O'Brien. And you can get the audiobook from Trent Sparks of Greyshade, available right now in all the fine venues. If you go over to the link, !Greyshade, you will find all that stuff there. And last but certainly not least, !BLM, Black Lives Matter, important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. !Help Now, the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention, important to reach out to others when you need help and reach out to others when they need help as well. And !Ukraine, Ukraine, to help the people of Ukraine as they fight back against an illegal and illegitimate war with bravery and courage, and send the message we will do this for others in that situation in the future. No raid today. Again, it's hard to do it with my mobile setup, although this worked much better today with the exception of the internet problem, but otherwise this worked much better today even than last time, which was working reasonably well anyway. So very happy with ArvBox 2.0, but a little more streamlining to be done, but pretty much just about there. I'm very happy with how this is working. So I will simply say thank you so much to my wonderful mods, to Dragonspear, to Drew, Prince Justin, of course, the Rising Tides, and Triffity Matt's best mods in the business. Thank you to my wonderful mods and to my wonderful Patreon supporters and subscribers: Dragon, Drew, Prince Justin, Rising Tides, Triffity Matt's, Crit Twitch, Mrs. Dunsel, Redlear, Trendane, and Waymond Wolf. And thank you to my wonderful viewers: 47 VRes, 7 Billet. Thank you to Arctico, Cajoling Lace, Dachshund Bertha. Thank you to Divinorium, to Jason, to Kaylin, to Light and Passion, Marie Bilodeau, Nonstop, who of course is a sub. Thank you to Optic Nerve, to Radio Johnny Panda, to Samskio, and to Spofo. And particular thanks today to my wonderful D&D with Infinity and Beyond crew. Thank you to Trent Sparks, to Jennifer Brozek, to Marie Bilodeau, to Brendan O'Brien, and to John Helfers for being amazing. Good work as well, chat, for you too. Thank you, everybody. Much love. Don't forget Sunday, out of character discussion with the Strange Friends about Speculate-related campaigns and the like. And then we'll be back with you maybe Friday the 7th, but definitely Saturday, July 8th, as I will have returned home at that point. But thanks, everyone. Much love, and everyone, please be good to each other. I'll catch y'all soon. Bye for now. Salvation, on the edge of the gray. Sharn, city of towers.
And the link between them? The King's Citadel. The ones who do the job no one else can do. Eberron, the shield. A star-forged Aegis who's lived a long time, who's seen peace and war, and will do whatever it takes to keep the first from falling into the second. Merime, the sword. A Kalashtar bard whose dreams prophesy uncertain ends, but the wisdom of whose counsel and love for her sister are unquestionable. Tantan, the brain. A dragon-marked human artificer whose jovial demeanor conceals deep curiosity and razor-sharp intellect, sharp enough to cut down the Citadel's enemies. Nisiana, the heart. A dragon-marked halfling healer whose love for her sister is matched only by her desire to help and heal the members of the Citadel, no matter the cost. Rowan Shallow, the wild card. For most of his life, he's played a dangerous game. When the chips are down, will he fold or go all in to save his friends? They found an artifact so powerful it could undo the fragile peace between nations, the Oracle of War, which gives anyone who owns it the knowledge they need to win any battle, and which, in speaking lines from the ancient draconic prophecy, could predict all of Eberron's future. They traveled to Sharn, City of Towers, where experts like the Gynosphinx Flamewind began to unravel the Oracle's mysteries as the King's Citadel thwarted assassination attempts from the Emerald Claw, and the nation of Thrain tracked down the daring thief Sky Blue and defeated the salvage broker and claw operative Erulin Karnak. Apparently. But there can be no rest while the dogs of war howl. And despite the Citadel's best efforts, Thrain and Brayland have inched ever closer to all-out conflict, just as the Oracle predicted. Now the adventurers must return to Salvation, to find the secrets of the Oracle of War before it's too late. But how have things changed since they left? And will those who've sworn to die before they give up their freedom, the servants of the enigmatic Lord of Blades, threaten Salvation's uneasy peace? They've survived the Grey, saved Salvation, and navigated the intrigue and deception of Sharn. But can they stop a war? Only if they remember that in the end, all they have is each other and the King's Citadel. Long live the King. Welcome to Eberron. Welcome to Corvair. Welcome back to Salvation.